dear friend of sleepy history, whether you're lying in bed, hiding in the bathroom from your kids, sitting on the toilet with your phone in one hand and your soul in the other, or simply pretending to answer emails at 11:47 p.m. Pause, breathe, and welcome, because tonight we travel back, way back, to an age when flowers were brand new, feathers were trending, and mammals were still socially awkward night owls just trying not to get eaten. Tonight, we will journey to the Cretaceous period, the final act of the dinosaur movie, where the T-Rex strides like a gym guy who forgot to lift weights, volcanoes erupt with fury greater than your partner's jealousy, and mammals, they quietly become the symbol of humanity. So get comfy, dim the lights, let the world wait. And hey, before you drift off, tell us in the comments, what time is it where you are? Midnight in New York? Did you wake up needing to pee and can't fall back asleep? No judgment here, just time travel, and wish for each other to have a good night. Ready? Now fluff your pillows, silence your notifications, and let's begin. Welcome to the Cretaceous, a time when Earth basically said, let's go big or go extinct. From about 145 to 66 million years ago, our planet was in its full chaotic phase. It was loud, lush, hot as your ex's Instagram post, and packed with more drama than a group chat after someone forgets to wish happy birthday. Dinosaurs were out here looking like boss battles from a video game. Some of them were so massive they needed GPS to find their own tail. Others were tiny but had egos so big, they made your office toxic coworker look humble. And flowers? Oh, they were just arriving on the scene late as hell, but still managing to seduce everyone. Bees, beetles, butterflies. Basically turning Earth into a prehistoric dating app. Let's be real. The Cretaceous wasn't some slow, relaxing age of ferns and frogs. It was a full-on evolutionary rave. Volcanoes were popping off like fireworks. Oceans were home to monsters that looked like rejected Pokemon designs. And up in the sky, winged reptiles glided around like, we invented flight before it was cool. All this while the climate was warm enough for palm trees to grow near the poles. Sweater weather? Earth said, never heard of her. And here's the kicker. All of this was just one long setup for a cosmic slap so big it deleted 75% of all living things. Yeah, spoiler alert, there's a space rock coming. But hold up, we're not there yet. First, you gotta meet the characters. Think of this like one of those messy reality shows. There's betrayal, glow-ups, heartbreak, mass extinctions, and plants that weaponized beauty. Honestly, the only thing missing was a dinosaur crying in the bathroom saying, I didn't come here to make friends, but let's pause. You might be thinking, why the hell should I care about some ancient period where lizards ruled the world and plants were just learning how to be sexy? Well, because this story, their story, is secretly about us. Every weird evolutionary twist, every ridiculous creature, every extinction, comeback, and miracle. It's a mirror. You've been there. You've felt like a Spinosaurus. Powerful, misunderstood, probably not meant to be in a group project. Or like a newly evolved flower. Pretty on the outside, desperately hoping someone swipes right. Hell, we've all had asteroid-level events in our lives. Breakups, job rejections, a text from your ex at 2 a.m. that says, you up? This era is not ancient history. It's a brutally honest metaphor for what it's like trying to survive, evolve, and maybe thrive in a world that keeps throwing chaos at you like dodgeballs in middle school PE. And look, we're not here to bore you with fossils and Latin names like some monotone documentary voiceover. We're here to tell you what really happened. The messy, ridiculous, glorious truth. The kind of stuff textbooks tried to sanitize. Because no one told you the tea. Rex was basically a giant angry chicken with commitment issues. Or that ancient insects were the original unpaid interns, working overtime to pollinate plants in exchange for a bit of nectar. Or that Earth has been tongue so many times before, you could call it the original drama queen. So let's do this properly. You, me, and a few million extinct friends. Let's walk into the Cretaceous like we just crashed the party of the millennium. Bring snacks. Bring emotional baggage. Bring that one fact you vaguely remember from 4th grade about pterodactyls. Because over the next 3 hours, you're going to hear a story about ambition, disaster, redemption, and betrayal, but with dinosaurs and sea monsters. You'll learn how flowers changed the freaking planet just by being hot and helpful. How insects became obsessed with those flowers and basically invented romantic codependency. How oceans became bloodbaths, and how one rock from space proved that sometimes, no matter how big, beautiful, or badass you are, life can still hit the delete button. So if you've ever failed a diet, ghosted someone, sent a risky text and regretted it instantly, binge-watched a whole season to avoid your problems, or pretended you didn't see your boss's email at 5:57 p.m., then trust me, you're gonna feel right at home in the Cretaceous. Because this world was wild. It was cruel. It was stupidly beautiful. And most of all, it was hilariously familiar. Let's begin. When dinosaurs go live, everything is big except the brain. One T-Rex, short arms but a big heart. Welcome to the late Cretaceous, a time when Earth said, screw subtlety, and dialed life up to 11. And in this prehistoric circus of absurd proportions, one creature strutted onto the stage with all the swagger of a gym bro who skipped leg day but never missed chest day. Ladies and gents, give it up for the one, the only Tyrannosaurus Rex. T-Rex wasn't just a dinosaur, it was a full-on walking paradox. Picture this. A giant beast as long as a bus, towering over forests like a reptilian bodybuilder with a neck thicker than your ex's emotional baggage. It had thighs like tree trunks, jaws that could crush a car, and an attitude that screamed, "I'm not angry, I'm just built this way." But then you pan down and see those arms. Those tragically short, almost decorative little noodles sticking out from its chest like a bad evolutionary joke. 2 fingers, barely functional, like evolution got tired and said, "Yeah, whatever, close enough, let's talk about those arms." You ever see a dude in the gym who's absolutely jacked but can't scratch his own back? That's T-Rex. You imagine it trying to take a selfie, nope. High five? Forget it. Button its shirt? Never owned one. And the poor bastard couldn't even clap. But don't let those stubby limbs fool you. While your average internet troll might say, "LOL, T-Rex can't even do push-ups," the truth is, it didn't need to. It had a bite force that could end careers. It was less arms day and more "I'll just eat you." Scientists think the arms might have had a purpose, maybe for holding on during mating, maybe for pushing itself off the ground. But honestly, we like to imagine the T-Rex just tragically trying to pick up a coconut and getting frustrated, then deciding to just bite the whole tree down instead. Efficient. And speaking of biting things, oh boy, T-Rex had 60+ teeth the size of bananas and a skull built like a medieval battering ram. It didn't so much chew as it obliterated. Prey didn't stand a chance. You're out there being a peaceful herbivore, having your little leafy brunch, and bam, the murder lizard shows up with the subtlety of a dump truck full of fireworks. Now let's talk behavior. Was T-Rex a lone wolf? A family man? A party dino? Recent evidence says, maybe all of the above. Fossils suggest it might have hunted in packs, which, if true, makes it even more terrifying. Imagine walking into a bar and not one but five swole, toothy giants roll up like they own the place. Each one built like a brick house. Tiny hands flailing around like they're trying to order a drink, but the bartender can't see them. And mating? Oh, the logistics. You thought modern dating was hard? Try being two multi-ton lizards with balance issues and arms too short to cuddle. How do they even start? A head nod? A guttural roar? Swipe right with their snouts? T-Rex love stories must have been all body language and hope. Scientists suggest the short arms might have helped during mating like a seatbelt, which is both hilarious and kind of sweet. Love finds a way even if your limbs don't. But even apex predators had to watch their backs. The Cretaceous was full of competition. Other carnivores, sneaky scavengers, and even nature itself. T-Rex didn't survive because it was smart. Let's be honest, its brain was roughly the size of a potato. It wasn't solving puzzles or writing poetry, but it had instincts, raw power, and an overwhelming ability to yeet itself into a fight and win. That said, it wasn't invincible. One twist of the ankle, one unlucky fall, and even the king could be dethroned. Nature doesn't care how many followers you have or how big your bite is. If you trip on a rock and can't get back up, the vultures, or rather the prehistoric cousins of vultures, will be on you like influencers on a new skincare brand. And here's the kicker, T-Rex lived at the very end of the dinosaur age. It was one of the last great carnivores before the asteroid said, "Time's up." Imagine being the final boss in Earth's ultimate video game, only to get wiped out by space debris. You're big, bad, unstoppable, and boom, game over. Cue the credits. But let's not end on a sad note. T-Rex may be extinct, but it lives on in our memes, our movies, and our nightmares. It's the dinosaur equivalent of that one guy from college you never really got over, loud, intense, and absolutely unforgettable. It's been dead for 66 million years, but somehow still more famous than half of Hollywood. So here's to the T-Rex, the short-armed legend with a heart and jaw of gold. It may not have been the brightest or the most graceful, but damn if it didn't leave an impression. Next time you feel self-conscious about your own flaws, just remember, T-Rex couldn't reach its own face, and it still ran the world. Tiny arms, big energy, absolute icon. 2. Spinosaurus, an upgraded version with fins, capable of swimming. Welcome to the late Cretaceous, where dinosaurs came in two flavors, terrifying and overcompensating. And if T-Rex was the gym bro of this prehistoric gym, then Spinosaurus was that weird amphibious guy who shows up in full gear just to do laps in the weight room. That's right. Let's talk about Spinosaurus, the semi-aquatic, sail-backed, crocodile-snout wild card of the dinosaur world. If evolution was playing a video game, this was the moment it decided, screw the meta, I'm building a hybrid. And oh boy, did it go off the rails. Spinosaurus looked like someone slammed a crocodile, a heron, and a windsurfing board together in a blender and said, "Yup, nailed it." With a crocodilian snout full of conical teeth, webbed feet, and a spine sail taller than your dreams of early retirement, this creature was less dino and more dragon from a fever dream. Let's start with the basics. Most carnivorous dinos were land-based, bipedal murder machines. Spinosaurus? Nah, our dude went aquatic. It ditched the land chad lifestyle and embraced the vibes of a misunderstood river beast. While T-Rex was out there yeeting hadrosaurs in open fields, Spino was gliding through swamps and rivers like a prehistoric ballerina with murder on its mind. Imagine being a fish in the Cretaceous. You're just vibing, chasing plankton, maybe doing synchronized swimming with your squad. Then splash. A massive, sail-backed horror show dives in with a jaw full of regret and poor decisions. That's Spinosaurus. The kind of predator that doesn't just ruin your day, it ruins the entire ecosystem's peace of mind. Now, let's address the elephant, or rather, the sail in the room. That iconic dorsal sail, stretching up to 2 meters tall, was basically a billboard screaming, "I have unresolved attention issues." Scientists still debate what it was for: thermal regulation, intimidation, mating displays, or simply a prehistoric flex. Personally, we like to think it was all of the above. You don't grow a back fin bigger than your self-esteem unless you're trying to prove something. And speaking of proving things, Spinosaurus was massive. Like bigger than T-Rex, up to 15 meters long. If dinosaurs had LinkedIn, Spino would list tallest carnivore as its headline, followed by water-based terror and freelance fish assassin. It was long, lanky, and not exactly built for parkour. On land, Spino walked awkwardly, like someone trying to carry a sofa by themselves while wearing roller skates. But get it in water, and suddenly it's Michael Phelps with a vengeance. Its entire body was optimized for the river life. Elongated jaws, pressure-sensitive snout, paddle-like tail, and even bones so dense they could counteract buoyancy. Basically, Spino wasn't just swimming, it was vibing underwater. Meanwhile, land dinos looked on like confused tourists, asking, "Why is Chad diving again?" But as majestic as Spinosaurus was in the water, on land it was, let's say, situational. Its hind limbs were shorter than expected, making it look like it skipped leg day forever. Try picturing it chasing prey on land. Awkward, hunched like a dude trying to run in flip-flops while holding a beach umbrella. Not ideal. That's what made Spinosaurus such a weird build. It specialized too much. In video game terms, it was that one friend who dumped all their skill points into water combat and forgot to invest in walking upright or not looking ridiculous. You wouldn't take Spino to a bar fight unless that bar was half submerged. Let's not pretend Spino wasn't terrifying though. Its jaws were perfect for grabbing slippery prey. Its bite was strong enough to turn fish into confetti, and it was basically a submarine with teeth. If fish had Twitter back then, #SpinoSucks would have trended weekly. And oh, the competition. While T-Rex and others were doing standard apex predator things, chasing down herbivores, roaring dramatically into the sunset, Spinosaurus said, "Nah fam, I'ma go fishing." It was a niche predator, yes, but that made it even more dangerous. It avoided direct competition by just changing the game. Of course, this made dating complicated. Imagine trying to flirt with a fellow dino who prefers dry land. Spino rolls up, soaking wet, smelling like river guts, trying to make conversation while its sail knocks over plants. Not exactly romance material. We don't know much about its love life, but chances are it involved a lot of swimming, synchronized tail movements, and long, wet stares across the marsh. And let's be real, who among us hasn't been that guy? You know, trying to stand out, to be different, to show you're special, only to end up so deep in your niche you forget how to function in public. That's Spinosaurus energy. The guy who trains for triathlons but still trips going upstairs. The dude who joins 5 dating apps but says he's emotionally unavailable right now. The friend who says, "I'm not like other carnivores," and then floods your cave with unsolicited fish pics. Oh, and let's talk multitasking. Spino was the OG jack of all trades, master of splashing awkwardly. It wanted to do it all: swim, stalk, intimidate, seduce, but sometimes ended up doing everything just a little wrong. Kind of like your friend who brings a guitar to every party but only knows Wonderwall. Was Spino cool? Absolutely. Was it extra? To a criminal degree. But that's what made it legendary. It didn't just exist, it made an entrance, wet footprints and all. Sadly, the same uniqueness that made Spinosaurus a legend also made it vulnerable. It lived in a specialized niche, and once ecosystems started shifting, say, from cosmic space rocks crashing the party, that specialization became a curse. It's like being a world-class VHS repairman in the age of Netflix. Evolution's brutal like that. Yet, for the time it reigned, Spinosaurus was a marvel. A walking paradox. Too aquatic for land life, too land-bound for full fish life, yet somehow surviving and thriving. It didn't roar for attention. It splashed, glided, and occasionally flopped onto land in the world's most intimidating belly flop. So let's raise a glass of swamp water to Spinosaurus, the dino that said, "Screw tradition, I'm building my brand." It may not have been the fastest, the smartest, or even the most graceful, but it was unapologetically itself. And that sail? Iconic. 3 Hadrosaur and Ankylosaur. Vegetarian team with maximum defense points. Welcome to the quiet corner of the late Cretaceous, a place where some dinosaurs decided that chasing, biting, and roaring was just too much drama. Enter the Hadrosaur and the Ankylosaur. Team Leaf Eater. Team Passive-Aggressive Defense. Team, I didn't choose the herbivore life. The herbivore life chose me. Let's start with Hadrosaur, the dinosaur equivalent of your overly alert neighbor who calls the HOA because your grass is 0.5 inches too tall. If Hadrosaur had a motto, it would be, live, munch, and scream when threatened. These duck-billed wonders didn't come to fight. They came to freak out dramatically the moment they heard a twig snap. With highly developed vocal crests and hollow chambers in their skulls, hadrosaurs were basically living vuvuzelas. Their calls could echo across the valley like your cousin airing dirty laundry on Facebook. RAHHHH, translated loosely to, OMG, something moved in the bushes. Sound the alarm. Seriously, they were the neighborhood gossip of the dinosaur world. They didn't run the fastest, they didn't hit the hardest, but boy could they yell. Imagine walking through the forest and suddenly hearing a 30-foot siren blaring panic. It didn't matter if it was a predator or a mildly aggressive squirrel. Hadrosaur was going to let everyone know. Social, loud, and always slightly on edge. They roamed in herds for safety and probably also to keep tabs on each other's drama. Don't think for a second they didn't judge. You just know there was one hadrosaur in the back like, ugh, Brenda's crest is totally overcompensating. Now flip to the opposite end of the anxiety spectrum. Ankylosaur, the walking tank, the dinosaur you don't want to tailgate, covered in osteoderms, aka prehistoric body armor, and sporting a club tail that could turn a T-Rex's shin bone into confetti. Ankylosaur wasn't about that talk life. It was about that thunk life. This was the friend who never raised their voice, never got into arguments, but casually carried a crowbar. Just in case. You know the type. The one who sits quietly at the bar, sipping water, until someone spills a drink on them. No yelling, no warning, just smash. Defense was its game, and it played it well. Evolution looked at this creature and said, give it a helmet. No, thicker. Thicker. Yes, now add spikes. Oh, and a tail that doubles as a medieval weapon. Ankylosaur took one look at the world and decided it would never be anyone's victim. You couldn't sneak up on it because its armor ran head to tail. You couldn't flip it over. You couldn't reason with it. All you could do was regret trying. And let's talk attitude. Ankylosaur gave off big, I know my worth energy. While predators flexed and howled, Ankylosaur just existed, unbothered, unmoved, untouchable. You think your toxic ex is hard to get through to? Try a living boulder with a tail mallet. Together, these two dinosaurs represent the full spectrum of non-violent survival strategies. Hadrosaur was the noisy roommate who screamed every time the microwave beeped. Ankylosaur was the roommate who calmly changed the locks when you forgot to do the dishes. And let's be honest, haven't we all been both at different points in life? Sometimes you're the Hadrosaur, overreacting to that seen message left unread for 3 hours. Sometimes you're the Ankylosaur, silently ghosting a toxic group chat and blocking half your high school. Hadrosaurs are the kind who post long, emotional Facebook statuses. Ankylosaurs deactivate their account without a word. Hadrosaurs cry in the bathroom after a breakup. Ankylosaurs unfollow and move on before you even notice. But don't mistake Hadrosaurs for weaklings. Their strategy worked. They thrived across continents. Their babies made it. Their genes spread far and wide. That scream, that drama, that whole "I will literally wake up the valley if I see danger" routine, it was survival. Call it what you want, but the panic screamers outlived many of the macho types. And Ankylosaurs? They didn't need loud. They needed no nonsense, no fear, no hesitation. They were the no thanks of the dinosaur kingdom. Predators looked at them like they looked at IKEA furniture without instructions. I could try, but I know it won't end well. Of course, they had their own quirks. Ever seen one try to navigate terrain? Not exactly nimble. Ankylosaurs were the Roombas of their time. Efficient, determined, and likely to get stuck between two logs. But heaven help whatever tried to take advantage of that. And then there's mating. Hadrosaurs probably used their vocal trumpets to flirt. Imagine a mating call so loud it echoes through miles of forest. Romantic or unbearable? You decide. Meanwhile, Ankylosaurs didn't need smooth lines. They just showed up armored and emotionally distant. You want safety and silence? Boom, that's your man. In a world full of drama queens and meat-eating influencers, Hadrosaurs and Ankylosaurs were the introverts just trying to mind their business. Eat leaves. Avoid confrontation. Maybe drop a tail club or two when things got spicy. So next time you feel like the world's too loud, remember Ankylosaur, you don't have to shout to make a point. And if you're feeling dramatic, channel your inner Hadrosaur and scream your leafy lungs out. Both strategies worked. Both survived. Both deserved better than extinction. Because whether you're a walking megaphone or a living brick wall, there's always a place for you in this messy, prehistoric ecosystem we call life. Just make sure you know when to honk and when to club. Now go forth, my armored introverts and siren screamers. Stay loud, stay solid, and if anyone calls you dramatic or stubborn, just tell them you're biologically accurate. RAR means don't test me in Dino. And remember, eating plants doesn't mean you won't wreck someone. Part 3, the White Chalk Essay, where fish dare not breathe heavily. One Mosasaur, the ocean's great boss. Welcome to the Cretaceous Sea, a liquid buffet of nightmares where fish dare not breathe heavily and everything with teeth is either hunting you or judging your swim style. This isn't your relaxing beach getaway. This is where evolution went. What if we made everything bigger, meaner, and slightly unhinged? Enter Mosasaur, the oceanic overlord with the vibe of a mafia boss and the appetite of a competitive eater at an all-you-can-eat extinction event. You think sharks are scary? That's cute. Mosasaur ate sharks as a light snack before brunch. It didn't swim through the ocean, prowled. It didn't chase prey. It announced its presence like a boss walking into a boardroom. Silent, smooth, and making everything else rethink its life choices. Picture this: a sleek, torpedo-shaped death lizard with flippers, up to 50 feet long, equipped with double-hinged jaws and teeth so sharp they looked photoshopped. If Jurassic Park were real, Mosasaur wouldn't be in the water show. It is the water show. You come to see the dolphin jump. Mosasaur comes to remove the dolphin. Its body was built like a swimmer on performance-enhancing kelp. Streamlined, muscular, and terrifyingly fast, Mosasaur was nature's way of saying, "Good luck escaping." Its limbs had evolved into paddles, its tail fluked like a shark's, and its eyes faced forward with the kind of intensity that says, "I'm not angry, just hungry." Adaptation-wise, Mosasaur was like your college friend who suddenly became a crypto bro. Fully committed, slightly untrustworthy, and always lurking just beneath the surface. It didn't dabble in water life. It went full aquaholic. Even its lungs were optimized for prolonged dives, so you'd never see it coming until your world went dark and your last thought was, "I knew I shouldn't have swum alone." And let's not forget the hunting style. Mosasaur was a master of ambush. It didn't chase. It waited. Then it struck with the precision of a deadline, hitting your inbox 5 minutes before clock out. Double-jointed jaws meant it could gulp prey bigger than your roommate's bad decisions. Rib-cracking bites? Standard. Prey evasion? Unlikely. Scientists believe some species even engaged in cannibalism. That's right. Mosasaurs ate other mosasaurs. The ocean wasn't big enough for two egos of that magnitude. It was less Finding Nemo and more Shark Tank, with real sharks getting tanked. Socially, think lone wolf but wetter. Mosasaurs weren't big on community. They were the kind of apex predator that didn't RSVP to group hunts. They showed up late, took the biggest kill, and ghosted. Probably left a bad Yelp review on the coral reef on the way out. And don't even get us started on reproduction. Unlike many of their land-dwelling cousins, mosasaurs likely gave birth in the water. No beaching for these sea thugs. Babies were born swimming, already giving side-eye to plankton. Talk about being born salty. Mosasaur was that one person in your group project who did nothing until the last second, then swooped in, devoured all the credit, and left a trail of carnage. But instead of passive-aggressively editing your slides, it devoured turtles. Its skull had more joint action than a late-night poker game. Hyperextensible jaws, movable palate bones, and a neck that could twist better than your most dramatic ex. No matter how a prey tried to squirm, Mosasaur could adjust its bite mid-swallow. Your local sushi chef? Amateur. And the teeth. Oh, the teeth. Not just for slicing, these conical daggers were designed for piercing and holding. Imagine trying to argue with a crocodile holding your arm. Now imagine that crocodile is the size of a school bus and doesn't need therapy because it is the problem. The Mosasaur didn't care about your feelings. It didn't want to play. It wanted lunch. And it brought the cutlery. Imagine being a plesiosaur, all elegant neck and graceful swim strokes, thinking you're the main character. Then along comes Mosasaur, punching your plotline off-screen like a seagoing Thanos. Snap. And humans? We only found out about this beast because we stumbled upon fossils while building dikes in the Netherlands. That's right. While modern humans were arguing about parking spaces, Mosasaur bones were lying in wait beneath the soil like, "Miss me?" So the next time you swim in the ocean and something brushes your leg, remember, it's not Mosasaur, but it could have been 66 million years ago, and that's scary enough. In short, Mosasaur wasn't just a sea monster. It was the sea. Everything else just rented space. It didn't survive the extinction, but let's be honest, it didn't need to. It had already peaked. Mic drop, tail flick, curtain close. Now let's pivot to the underwater influencers who looked like they were built by someone binge-watching sea monster documentaries and neck fetish compilations. Plesiosaurs and their long-necked, long-suffering squad. 2. Plesiosaurs and the gang. The sea's most elegant freeloaders. Imagine attending an online class. Camera on, mic off, brain in airplane mode. That, dear reader, is the plesiosaur lifestyle in a nutshell. Elegant, present, but suspiciously passive. You could call it graceful predation. We call it weaponized waiting. Plesiosaurs were all about the look. For flippers for synchronized swimming, a swan-like neck that would make yoga instructors jealous, and a poker face that said, "Yes, I'm majestic, but I haven't moved in 3 hours." These prehistoric sea noodles didn't go around chasing prey like some desperate gym bro at a Friday night club. Nah, they waited and waited, then struck with all the energy of an overworked employee grabbing the last donut at 4:59 p.m. on a Monday. Efficient? Maybe. Heroic? Not quite. But relatable? Absolutely. Their strategy? Ambush predation, which is science talk for, I'm going to float here like an unemployed jellyfish until something stupid swims into range. It's the evolutionary equivalent of pretending to work while secretly watching cooking videos at your desk. Their long necks or up to 20 feet of vertebrae spaghetti weren't just for dramatic effect. Those bad boys were the original selfie sticks of the ocean. Sneak up, snatch the fish, and retreat without moving your core. Like someone who's mastered the art of eating chips without lifting their butt from the couch. And don't get us started on their social behavior or complete lack thereof. These were not team players. No hunting packs. No synchronized swims. Just lone wolf vibes with a splash of, "Don't text me unless it's about food." Now let's talk job performance. These sea giraffes were the type to be on the payroll but ghost every meeting. Evolution handed them flippers and a dream, and they replied with, "Cool, I'll just vibe." They were the interns of the ancient ocean. Technically there, but nobody knew what they actually did. When it came to speed, plesiosaurs were more about precision than velocity. Like your coworker who moves slow but somehow always meets deadlines. Because they only do one thing and make sure someone else takes the fall if it fails. Smart? Yes. Noble? Absolutely not. And reproduction? Scientists think some gave live birth in the water. So babies came out fully equipped with flippers and a pre-installed fear of being lunch. It's a harsh world when your first memory might be your uncle getting eaten by a mosasaur. Now, let's roast their close cousins, the short-necked pliosaurs, who looked like someone squashed a crocodile and forgot to resize the jaw. They were the bouncers of the underwater club. Stocky, mean, and quick to snap. But plesiosaurs? All neck, no bite. That giant neck, while iconic, wasn't exactly built for combat. Imagine trying to fight someone while carrying a garden hose full of jello. That's what a plesiosaur felt like in a scuffle. Stylish, yes. Deadly? Only to creatures who swam directly into their mouth while drunk on plankton. Let's not pretend they were apex predators either. More like sea librarians with passive-aggressive snack habits. If Mosasaur was the hitman of the Cretaceous, Plesiosaur was the office gossip. Always present, rarely useful, and somehow still alive halfway through the crisis. But their real skill, survival through mediocrity. They weren't the fastest, strongest, or smartest, but they were consistent. Like that one coworker who never gets promoted but never gets fired either. Evolution looked at them and said, "Fine, you can stay." And let's be real, the biggest threat to a plesiosaur wasn't even predators. It was their own neck. That thing probably got stuck in seaweed, or tangled in kelp, or used as a swing by baby ammonites. It's hard to be majestic when a crab is dangling from your chin. Also, try living with a body that says, "I'm all about elegance," and a head the size of a tennis ball. That's like walking into a board meeting in a three-piece suit with bunny slippers on. The proportions? Hilarious. The effectiveness? Debatable. And look, we've all been there. The team project where you contribute nothing but still put your name on the slide. That's the plesiosaur's whole brand. They freeloaded through the Cretaceous like your cousin freeloads your Netflix. Quietly, consistently, and with zero shame. There's even debate about whether that long neck was actually helpful or just an evolutionary midlife crisis. Like buying a sports car in your 50s but underwater. A flex? Maybe. Practical? Probably not. Plus, there's evidence they may have traveled long distances. Slowly. Which is just code for, we took the scenic route because cardio is for suckers. If you ever feel like you're doing the bare minimum to get by, congratulations, you're channeling your inner plesiosaur. These creatures were proof that sometimes, all you need to do is show up, keep your head down or up, depending on neck angle, and let chaos swirl around you. So next time your boss catches you staring blankly at your screen with nothing but coffee and despair in your system, just whisper, "I'm in my plesiosaur era," and glide off into another fake spreadsheet. Because in the great ocean of life, not everyone's a mosasaur. Some of us are just long-necked sea slackers doing our best to not get eaten before 5 p.m. And that, folks, is evolution's version of quiet quitting. Flippers out, neck high, and absolutely zero ambition beyond lunch. Coming up next, creatures even weirder, because the Cretaceous never disappoints. Stay submerged. 3 coral and plankton. The invisibles who run the show. Let's shift gears. You've heard enough about the sea dragons and aquatic neck noodles. Now let's talk about the real MVPs of the Cretaceous ocean, the ones you didn't see coming because, well, they're microscopic. Coral and plankton, or as we call them, the Team Hauken of the ancient sea. The backstage crew making sure the whole chaotic production doesn't collapse into total fishy anarchy. Plankton are like the office intern who refills the coffee pot. No one notices them, but the second they're gone, everyone loses their minds. Fish stop showing up. Predators start missing meals. The whole ecosystem crashes harder than your Wi-Fi during a Zoom presentation. These tiny floating blobs are the base of the entire food pyramid, which makes them the carbs of the ocean. Absolutely necessary, universally unappreciated. You think you're underpaid and undervalued? Plankton's been holding up marine life for millions of years and still hasn't had a raise. Their only bonus? Occasionally being bioluminescent, which is like glowing in the dark to distract from the crushing reality that you're lunch for something with too many teeth. Then there's coral. Imagine being a rock with feelings. That's coral. They just sit there, building underwater cities, providing housing for thousands of marine species, and yet still getting stepped on by every idiot with fins. Coral reefs are the HOA of the ancient sea. Overworked, underfunded, and constantly threatened by someone doing something stupid nearby. And their defense system? Oh, just passive-aggressively releasing mucus or stinging you like that one coworker who always CCs your manager in email threads. They don't fight, they guilt trip. Without coral, the Cretaceous Sea would have been an empty food court with no tables. No structure, no drama. Coral gave sea creatures places to hide, hunt, spawn, and throw house parties. But did they ever get a thank you? Of course not. Evolution doesn't do HR. Now combine coral and plankton, and what do you get? A power couple more crucial than oxygen and coffee. While mosasaurs were out there being the loud, dramatic leads of the prehistoric blockbuster, these two were backstage keeping the electricity on and the snacks stocked. And just like the people who actually know how to fix the office printer, they were ignored until it was way too late. Coral bleaching, plankton blooms? That's nature's way of saying, you should have respected the support staff. The irony? Everyone depends on them but acts like they're optional. It's like firing the janitor and wondering why the building smells like despair 2 days later. Plankton and coral were the ecosystem's emotional support workers. Unpaid, unseen, and absolutely essential. And let's not forget how plankton, tiny, helpless blobs, are somehow responsible for producing a huge chunk of Earth's oxygen. That's right. Every time you breathe, thank the ocean nerds no one invites to parties. They were doing the literal heavy lifting while everyone else was busy trying to become a fossil. But wait, it gets even better. Some of these plankton types, like foraminifera and coccolithophores, left behind gorgeous microscopic skeletons that scientists now use to date rocks and decode Earth's climate history. That's right. The tiniest things left the biggest receipts. Petty legends. Meanwhile, coral was out there building Gothic cathedrals underwater. With zero budget, zero staff, and every tenant constantly pooping in the halls. If that's not divine patience, we don't know what is. Also, let's address how coral reproduces. Once a year, in an act of synchronized chaos, entire reefs explode with spawn in what is basically an underwater confetti cannon of love. It's beautiful, it's awkward, it's a logistical nightmare, but somehow they pull it off, like an office potluck where everyone actually brought something. So next time you hear someone talking about sharks and dinosaurs like they're the only cool things from the past, gently remind them that without plankton and coral, the ocean wouldn't have functioned at all. It'd be like a tech startup with no IT guy, just vibes and crashing apps. Coral and plankton, the ocean's true quiet heroes, the introverts holding up the whole extrovert ecosystem. The ones who do their job, never brag, and still get zero love on evolution's LinkedIn page. They didn't need fangs, or armor, or dramatic necks, just quiet persistence and the ability to keep showing up, day in, day out, for millions of years. So next time you're feeling invisible, just remember, you might be the plankton of your office, the coral of your friend group, the tiny thing holding everything together while the flashy predators get all the credit. And that, dear reader, is why science is better than fiction. Because even the tiniest speck can be the plot twist that saves the world. Coming up next, creatures that make even the weirdest Pokemon look lazy. Stay tuned for ichthyosaurs and the post-apocalyptic party of the sea. Welcome to the grand finale of the Cretaceous Sea Saga, where extinction is simmering in the background like a forgotten pot of instant noodles on a Friday night, because a meteorite larger than your fate is about to fall to Earth. And leading this aquatic dance of doom, our old flippered friend, the ichthyosaur. Now, ichthyosaurs weren't exactly new to the party. These dolphin-shaped, reptilian torpedoes had been around for millions of years, doing their best impression of fish even though they were as reptilian as your ex's cold-blooded text responses. But by the late Cretaceous, they were fading faster than your gym membership motivation by mid-February. Still, before they peaced out, they left behind a legacy of speed, sneak, and some of the weirdest evolutionary flexes this side of the Mariana Trench. Think of ichthyosaurs as the slick finance bros of the ancient sea. Fast, efficient, always dressed in hydrodynamic suits, and just a little dead behind the eyes. They weren't the flashiest predators anymore. Mosasaurs had stolen that thunder, but they were still out there, making deals, aka catching squid, staying out of drama, aka avoiding giant jaws, and pretending everything was fine as the world slowly burned around them. Their hunting strategy, built-in sonar-like eyes and snouts that could shame any swordfish. They zoomed around with the energy of someone who just chugged 3 espressos and remembered they left the stove on. Agile, precise, and absolutely not here to mess with your emotional baggage. They came, they bit, they bounced. But the real chaos wasn't ichthyosaur-shaped. Oh no. The real story was what the ocean looked like as extinction started to creep in. Like that coworker who's been passive-aggressively cleaning out their desk 2 weeks before giving notice. Picture it. Water temperatures all over the place, oxygen levels doing the limbo, and underwater volcanic activity like nature's very own rage room. Coral? Stressed. Plankton? Blooming like a teenager's acne in exam week. Everyone else? Panicking. The food web was fraying like the cuffs of your favorite socks. Species that had coasted through millions of years suddenly found themselves without a lunch plan. Top predators went from alpha to O as prey species disappeared. It was like being the most popular kid in school right before the school shuts down. Sorry, Chad Mosasaur, nobody's coming to prom. And then boom, meteor. Okay, we're skipping ahead, but you get the vibe. The late Cretaceous ocean was the kind of party that started with glitter and snacks and ended with the floor sticky, the host crying, and at least 3 people missing. The ocean's version of a climate reckoning wasn't gentle. We're talking acidification, anoxic zones, and a chain reaction of breakdowns that would make even the most cynical doomer whisper, "Yikes." And ichthyosaurs? They had the foresight to disappear before the meteor struck. That's right. These guys went extinct a few million years earlier. Smart move. Like quitting your job the week before the company goes under. Cowardly? Maybe. Visionary? Definitely. Their last fossil record waves a silent goodbye from the shadows of time. Like the friend who Irish goodbyes from the party and avoids the cops showing up an hour later. Say what you want about ichthyosaurs, but they knew when to leave the stage. Now let's look around the apocalyptic buffet that followed. With major players dying off, the sea turned into a weird mix of panic and improvisation. Scavengers bloomed. Small, unassuming species thrived because nobody was paying attention to them. The old food chains snapped like dry spaghetti, and suddenly the weirdos inherited the ocean. This was the time of evolutionary freelancing. Niche species sprouted up like suspicious mushrooms after rain. If you had a weird adaptation, this was your moment. Filter feeders? Rise up. Jawless blobs with bad attitudes? The world is your oyster. And of course, there were the survivors, the cockroach equivalents of the sea. Sharks, rays, small bony fish, and the earliest hints of creatures that would eventually evolve into whales. Yes, whales, the spiritual successors of ichthyosaurs, but with a better PR team and much deeper existential poetry. So what did we learn from this slow-motion collapse of aquatic civility? 1. Being big and flashy doesn't protect you when the ecosystem tanks. Sorry, Mosasaur. You were the CEO, but your company ran out of plankton. 2. Adaptability beats legacy. Coral builders, ancient apex predators. None of that mattered if you couldn't pivot. The ocean became one giant survivor episode, and no one was safe. 3. Timing is everything. Ichthyosaurs bailed before the collapse. Were they losing relevance? Sure, but they went out on their own terms before the meteor forced the rest to eat humble sea pie. 4. The nerds will inherit the earth. Plankton, filter feeders, bottom dwellers, the quiet, unflashy organisms nobody bet on. They made it through, just like Carl from accounting, who somehow survives every layoff. And 5, the ocean doesn't care about your ego. Evolution is the biggest roast master of them all. You think you're special, unique, apex, cute. Nature just hit refresh, and your resume's in the shredder. In the end, the Cretaceous Sea became the stage for one final lesson. Extinction is democratic. It doesn't care about your jawline, your armor, or how many followers you had on Paleo Instagram. When the lights go out, it's the quiet, the weird, the small, and the lucky that keep swimming. So here's to the ichthyosaurs, the classy ghosts of the sea, to the late-stage Cretaceous oceans, the messy roommates of extinction, and to science for showing us that even in collapse, there's comedy, chaos, and a chance to laugh at our own delusions of permanence. Because if a dolphin-lizard hybrid with the eyes of a sniper and the speed of a torpedo can't make it through history, maybe your email inbox isn't that big of a deal after all. Part 1. The Floral Revolution. When nature went full drama queen. 1. The first flower. Nature's original makeover queen. Okay, serious question. Who do you think was the first creature in Earth's history to use perfume to flirt? Not humans. Not Cleopatra. Not that guy in your office who bathes in Axe body spray. Nope. The real OGs of fragrance seduction were plants. Yeah, plants. See, back in the day, we're talking hundreds of millions of years ago, plants were kind of boring. Like biology class level boring. Just green blobs throwing out spores like bad Tinder openers. Hey, said a moss to the wind. Mind passing this along to someone with a compatible chromosome? It was long-distance dating at its worst. Wind-based pollination was basically swiping left on everyone and hoping one pollen grain eventually landed on something willing. But then, around the Cretaceous period, something snapped. Plants looked around and said, "You know what? I'm done being dusty and desperate. It's time for a glow-up." And thus, flowers were born. This was nature's first real makeover montage. Except instead of a girl taking off her glasses and suddenly being hot, it was plants inventing colors, scents, symmetry, and literal nectar bribes. Imagine being a plant, stuck in one spot your whole life, and needing to get laid. What do? You become irresistible. You grow flashy petals. You start giving out free sugar shots to passing bugs. You invent perfume, sweet, sticky, intoxicating scents designed to hijack the noses of flying insects and whisper, "Come hither." That's right. Flowers were the first to weaponize aesthetic thirst traps. Forget DMs. They dropped color-coded invitations on every breeze. And the bugs? Oh, they fell for it hard. Bees especially. These little furry addicts were out here losing their minds. Yo bro, you tried that purple one near the stream? Nectar's wild, man. Suddenly, evolution had a new power couple. Flowering plants and pollinators. It was like the ultimate collab Drake x Rihanna level. Plants got their sexy DNA transferred with precision. Bugs got free drinks. Everybody won, except the gymnosperms, who sat there with their cones, bitter and dusty. Like, back in my day, we just used wind and dignity. Now think about it, this change was revolutionary. Before, plants relied on chaos, wind, water, luck. After flowers came on the scene, reproduction became intentional, targeted, streamlined. Suddenly, evolution had filters. Plants were like, I want bees, not flies. Let's go with lavender and UV patterns. It was like going from handing out photocopied flyers to running a sponsored ad campaign. Nature discovered marketing, and it wasn't just the petals. Oh no, flowers started customizing their sex organs. Some had male and female parts on the same structure. Others split the roles across multiple flowers. They were experimenting more than a drama student during their gap year. Evolution was like, let's get weird. And flowers said, bet. Some even developed booby traps, like the orchid that mimics a female bee so precisely, male bees try to mate with it and accidentally carry pollen away. That's not pollination. That's catfishing. Meanwhile, animals were evolving right alongside. Insects developed better eyes to spot specific flowers. Tongues got longer. Smell receptors went off the charts. Birds joined the party too, especially hummingbirds, who basically became flying straws with ADHD. It was a floral arms race, brighter, smellier, trickier. Nature wasn't just surviving anymore. She was showing off. And let's not forget, this wasn't just about sex. Okay? It mostly was. Flowers changed the whole damn planet. Their roots stabilized soil. Their leaves altered the atmosphere. Their fruits fed dinosaurs, mammals, and eventually that one weird ape who now runs Earth and makes TikToks. Forests flourished. Climates cooled. Ecosystems exploded with diversity. All because some plant decided, maybe I'll grow a petal today. It's kind of beautiful when you think about it. The idea that something so extra, so unnecessary as a flower, soft, colorful, sweet-smelling, could be one of evolution's most strategic moves. Like, nature didn't just become more efficient. It became more seductive, more intimate, more alive. But of course, it wasn't perfect. Some bugs became flower junkies, loyal to one species, addicted to its scent, ignoring all other options. Others became thieves, stealing nectar without spreading any pollen. Freeloaders, man. Even in nature, there were also battles. Plants competing for pollinators, evolving fake nectar guides, or even mimicking rival species to confuse insects. It was like dating in 2025. Messy, misleading, manipulative, and full of gaslighting. So next time you see a flower, don't just think pretty. Think biochemical weapon. Think evolutionary thirst trap. Think ancient billboard shouting, "Pollinate me, baby," in every wavelength of light and scent molecule it can muster. Because in the grand love story of life on Earth, the invention of flowers wasn't just the beginning of beauty. It was the moment evolution stopped shouting into the wind and started writing love letters in color and scent. 2. Successful pollination equals nature's first viral marketing campaign. Alright, imagine this, you're a flower. You can't move. You can't talk. You can't even swipe right. But you desperately need someone to come touch your parts and carry your precious DNA somewhere useful. Welcome to the oldest, most desperate thirst trap in biological history. And you thought your dating life was rough? Now here's the twist. These plants didn't just sit around hoping. They marketed themselves. Hardcore. Flowers were basically the original startup bros. Except instead of yelling, "Crypto," they whispered, "Nectar, pollination." That wasn't just reproduction. That was a full-blown KPI-driven marketing strategy with better UX than most apps today. Target audience, know your pollinator. First rule of any good campaign, know who you're trying to attract. Is it bees, birds, bats, beetles, butterflies? Horny moths who think you're their girlfriend? Plants figured it out early. I'm gonna tailor this experience to my ideal audience. No more broadcasting spores into the wind and hoping. That's just bad ROI. Bee pollinators? Cool. Let's go with bright yellow and blue petals. UV patterns invisible to humans but hot AF to insects. And a landing pad design that says, "Welcome, weary traveler. The buffet is open." Hummingbirds? You like red, don't you? Here's a long, tube-shaped flower that matches your beak exactly. And because you have no sense of smell, no problem. We'll invest in bold colors, skip the perfume budget, and just keep the nectar flowing like a Vegas bar. Moths? You're out at night. We'll glow in the dark. Maybe throw in a lil scent that says, "I'm single, pollinated, and photosynthesizing." See? Targeted, personalized, efficient. Not a single drop of nectar wasted on the wrong demographic. Imagine if your crush had a flower designed specifically for your taste, nose, and schedule. Now imagine still getting left on read. Plants would never. Incentives. Because nobody works for free. Okay, you've targeted the right crowd. Now what? You've got to bribe them. Flowers understood early that to get love, you gotta pay. No one's spreading your pollen for the vibes. So they cooked up nectar, sugary, addictive, instant gratification juice. Like actual dopamine in liquid form. You think your morning coffee keeps you going? Bees wake up and do an 8-hour shift just for a hit of that sweet, floral crack. They'll travel miles. Forget minimum wage. These workers operate on a nectar-based economy and work harder than interns at a startup. And it's not just about the sugar. Some flowers even added extra incentives. Special oils for bee babies? Check. Scented resins for perfume-loving bugs? Yup. Straight up heat? Yes. Some flowers literally warm themselves to make the experience cozier. They're out here offering spa packages while you can't even get someone to text back. UX/UI design, petals, patterns, and pathways. Let's not kid ourselves. Looks matter. Flowers knew that way before Instagram existed. We're talking color palettes that slap in UV. Symmetrical designs that scream, "I'm fertile and well-balanced." Patterned runways guiding insects like tiny air traffic controllers. Land here, go there, take off with my gametes. Thanks, King. Some even evolved touch-sensitive triggers, like snapdragon flowers that open only for the right weight of bee. Bro, that's two-factor authentication. Orchids? Those dramatic divas went full deception. Some look like female bees so males will mate with them and oops. Got pollen all over your junk, buddy. Others just lock insects inside until they've done their job. That's not UX. That's hostage-level conversion tactics. Growth hacking? More like grow and trap hacking. Go viral, make them come back for more. Now, what's a good campaign without retention? Huh? Plants weren't just chasing one-night pollination stands. They wanted loyal fans, brand ambassadors, serial pollen couriers. Some flowers bloomed in sync, forming mass blooming events that were basically Coachella for insects. Yo, the whole meadow's lit right now. You been to the south-facing slope? Crazy nectar flow. Daisy's back? Bet I'm pollinating her first. Other plants used scent memory, hitting pollinators with smells so unique that bugs literally remembered them by brand. Smells like grandma's nectar. Is that vanilla? Wait. Oh my God, it's her. It was loyalty marketing on another level. Pollen, scent, sugar. A trio so tight even Starbucks is jealous. Meanwhile, the freeloaders arrive. Of course, with every good system, the freeloaders show up. Enter nectar robbers. These are insects and sometimes birds that chew holes in the base of flowers, steal nectar, and dip. No pollen exchange, no romantic intentions, just smash and grab. Evolution's equivalent of just here for the free food. But flowers fought back. Some evolved tougher petals, longer tubes, or narrow entrances that only legit pollinators could access. Others produced poisonous nectar, helpful to the right bug, deadly to others. Like nature said, if you can't commit, you don't get the goods. Some even did a B testing. Literally, different flowers on the same plant would have slight variations: petal size, nectar placement, scent, and whichever got more pollinator action got passed on. Nature was out here running analytics before Google Analytics even existed. So, why does this matter? Because this little PR stunt, pollination, changed everything. It wasn't just plants getting freaky. It was an explosion of biodiversity. New relationships, new adaptations, new strategies. It was the dawn of complex ecological networking, with plants and animals becoming codependent influencers, boosting each other's reach. And all of it based on the idea that if you want to survive, you better get noticed. The best looking, best smelling, best marketed flowers got pollinated. The rest left to wilt in obscurity. Brutal, but efficient. So next time you're working on your LinkedIn profile or tweaking your Instagram bio, just remember, flowers did it first. And they didn't even have Wi-Fi. They just had style, sugar, and a killer scent strategy. 3. The drama between flowers and ferns. When nature went full soap opera. If the evolution of plants were a reality dating show, ferns would be that grumpy contestant who's been on since season 1, still wearing the same crusty turtleneck, insisting that the classics never die. You know, the type, 0 updates, 0 effort, just vibes, and not the good kind. The kind of guy who thinks spraying his spores in the general direction of the wind counts as effort. Sorry, but no one's swiping right on that. Ferns were the OGs, sure. They strutted into Earth's spotlight millions of years ago, all confident and bare-chested, saying, "I don't need flowers, I am the moment." And for a while they were. Ferns were the plant world's version of that retired rock star who once sold out stadiums. Now mostly spotted at local cafes talking about the good old days and complaining about pollen allergies. Their strategy? Simple. Drop a ridiculous amount of spores into the wind and hope. That's it. No finesse, no flair, just biological blindfold darts. Imagine writing 10,000 love letters, tossing them out of a moving car, and crossing your fingers that one lands in the mailbox of someone mildly compatible. Romantic, maybe. Efficient, not even a little. But then, evolution decided it was time to spice things up. Enter flowers. Gen Z of the plant world. Flashy, fragrant, and full of attitude. These botanical bombshells didn't play by the old rules. They had style, strategy, a scent profile curated by nature's top perfumers. While ferns were out here hurling dusty desperation into the void, flowers showed up with a full-on marketing campaign. First impressions? Immaculate, bright colors, petals soft as influencer skin after a 15-step skincare routine. Nectar sweeter than your ex's apology texts. And most importantly, they understood audience targeting. Bees, birds, butterflies, even the wind. Flowers had collabs lined up like a Marvel phase. Ferns? Still posting blurry spore pics on MySpace. The moment flowers debuted, pollination went from a passive accident to a high-stakes matchmaking game. Imagine a nightclub where every plant is trying to get noticed, but only one walks in glowing, smelling like vanilla dreams and handing out cocktails. Who you gonna flirt with? Exactly. Flowers made pollination sexy, interactive, and most of all, efficient. Forget blasting spores into the abyss. Flowers created specialized structures to attract just the right kind of pollinator, offering rewards like nectar in exchange for a little pollen delivery. It's like DoorDash, but for plant sex. The drama? Oh, it was spicy. Ferns were furious. Their once glorious monopoly was being wiped out by what they saw as glorified influencers with too much blush and not enough humility. Back in my day, Fern would grumble, swirling his fourth cup of lukewarm dew. Plants didn't need colors or perfume. We relied on the wind and patience. And Flower, sipping sparkling sap through a biodegradable straw, would smile sweetly and say, "Ah, that's cute. How's extinction treating you?" Nature had spoken. The floral revolution was in full swing. With their flair and function, flowers didn't just charm, they conquered. They spread across continents, partnered with pollinators in every climate, and transformed entire ecosystems. Ferns were left clinging to their shady corners, growing resentful and occasionally whispering, "At least I'm not high maintenance." But even they couldn't ignore the numbers. Flowers were thriving. They had diversified into everything from dandelions to orchids to the roses your situationship forgot to buy you on Valentine's. And the truth? It wasn't just about beauty. Flowers optimized everything. Their reproductive system was sleek, their partnerships were smart, and they adapted fast. Evolution doesn't care about seniority, it cares about results. So what's the takeaway from this botanical soap opera? Well, just like in life, being first doesn't guarantee staying relevant. You can either evolve with the times or sit alone yelling at clouds. Flowers didn't just survive, they thrived by doing what every successful Gen Z does. They understood their audience, built a brand, offered value, and stayed aesthetic. They didn't need to shout into the void. They whispered sweet nectar promises, and nature came running. Meanwhile, ferns are still hoping someone will notice their spores. Poor guy, still wearing that dusty turtleneck. So next time you walk past a flower, remember, that little thing isn't just pretty. It's the result of millions of years of drama, strategy, and seductive marketing. The ultimate evolutionary flex. And the ferns? Let's just say, they had their season. But now, they're background characters in a world where flowers are the main event. Evolution's not fair. It's fabulous. Part 4, Flying Animals. Who can fly will survive. 1. Modern birds. The chicken-suited descendants of dinosaurs. You ever look at a pigeon and think, yeah, that's basically a velociraptor in a hoodie? Welcome to the absolutely unhinged story of how a group of theropod dinosaurs, yes, the same crew as T-Rex, went from earth-shaking apex predators to flapping traffic cones in the local park. Let's rewind a bit. Picture the late Cretaceous. A jungle rave of creatures, a thunderous chorus of stomps, screeches, and whatever weird noise a triceratops makes when it's upset. Amid this madness, a subset of theropods began developing what looked suspiciously like feathers. Not the feathery boas your aunt wears to weddings, more like filamentous insulation, like nature's attempt at bubble wrap. At first, nobody took them seriously. Other dinos laughed. "Look at those fuzzy freaks," they said. But these little guys had a plan. While everyone else was busy growing spikes, horns, and egos, the protobirds were streamlining, lightening up, and playing with this wild new idea. Flight. That's right. Flight, the ultimate evolutionary mic drop. Of course, it wasn't instant. The early flyers probably looked like someone taped cardboard wings to a disgruntled turkey. But as millennia passed, those feathers got sleeker. Wings formed, tails shortened, hollow bones evolved, which is nature's way of saying, let's give this thing a flying chance. Meanwhile, the rest of Dinosaur High was too busy being jocks to notice the nerds were building a jetpack. Now here's the kicker. Flight wasn't just a cool party trick. It was survival mode, unlocked. You could escape predators, migrate when the weather turned moody, and, perhaps most importantly, become a total foraging ninja. Bugs, seeds, fish, small mammals? Nothing was safe from a beaked bullet with wings. Think of it like a video game. Evolution handed them XP every time they dodged extinction. Level 1. Flap awkwardly. Level 10. Migrate continents, hover in mid-air, and develop complex mating dances involving feathers, screeches, and pelvic thrusts. But flight alone didn't seal the deal. No, sir. These birds got the multi-tool upgrade. Beaks evolved into the Swiss Army knives of the animal kingdom. Each shape meant a different strategy. Cracking seeds, stabbing fish, slicing fruit, pecking your annoying cousin, you name it. Lungs? Rebuilt from the ground up. While most animals huff in and out like a bike pump with asthma, birds evolved a one-way airflow system that basically turns their lungs into oxygen turbochargers. You try flying non-stop across the ocean on a glorified salad and see if you don't need a better breathing system. Their vision? Sharper than your ex's side eye. Their brains? Smaller, yes, but wired for aerial combat, social bonds, and long-term migration routes. They're literally born with internal GPS. Meanwhile, you can't remember where you parked the car. Then came the feather flex. What began as insulation became tools of seduction, camouflage, intimidation, and aerodynamic excellence. Some birds got peacock fabulous. Others stayed murderously minimalist, like hawks in tuxedos. But make no mistake, every feather is a chapter in their evolutionary novel. And while we're here, let's talk about the sassiest plot twist of them all. Birds didn't go extinct with the dinosaurs. They are dinosaurs. Every time you eat a chicken nugget, you're committing paleocannibalism. Every duck, parrot, crow, and kiwi is a living, flapping middle finger to the meteor. Meanwhile, T. Rex? Fossilized. Velociraptor? Museum star. But the dino that once looked like a fancy pigeon? Still here, stealing your French fries at the beach. And yes, chickens are part of this story. Chickens. The feathered revolutionaries that now outnumber humans 3-1. They've infiltrated our farms, our fast food, our cultural rituals. You want world domination? Forget Skynet. It's already Poultrynet. Let's not ignore birdsong either. While most extinct dinosaurs probably communicated through grunts, hoots, and the occasional thunderous bellow, birds developed vocal range. Not just for flirting, though yes, 90% of it is basically Tinder for trees, but also for territory warnings and calling out your BS from 100 meters away. And did they stop there? Nope. Birds migrated, like actual cross-continental travel. Thousands of miles on wings powered by breakfast cereal and spite. Arctic terns can fly from pole to pole. Swallows return to the same barn every year like clockwork. You forget your own birthday, but they remember GPS coordinates from last spring. 2 pterosaurs. The original flyboys got canceled. Long before birds turned the sky into their personal Uber lane, there were the pterosaurs, the OGs of powered flight. These weren't birds. They weren't even dinosaurs. They were something else. Something weirder. Something that looked like evolution got tipsy and tried designing a bat, a bird, and a dragon all at once. These leather-winged legends ruled the Mesozoic skies like drunk angels with no boundaries. From the sparrow-sized Anurognathus to the flying skyscraper known as Quetzalcoatlus, whose wingspan could shade your entire neighborhood barbecue. Pterosaurs were the first vertebrates to look gravity in the face and say, "Nah, we're good." They were everywhere, swooping over seas, diving for fish, scaring the crust out of early mammals, probably pooping mid-flight on unsuspecting stegosaurs. Their heads had more crests than a 2000s punk concert, and their jaws? Oh, just casual death traps, lined with pointy teeth perfect for snatching lunch and childhood dreams. But here's the twist. They're all dead. You know what isn't dead? Chickens. Yes, chickens. Let that sink in. While birds fluffed up and fluttered into evolutionary greatness, pterosaurs got canceled harder than a Hollywood actor caught saying, "bruh," unironically. Why? Because evolution doesn't care if you were first. Cares if you're adaptable. And pterosaurs, bless their leathery wings, were not. For starters, they were a logistical nightmare. Hollow bones the size of PVC pipes. Bodies too big, babies too fragile, and most of them needed a cliff runway to take off. That's not an animal, that's a budget airline. And then came the birds. Slick, efficient, feathery little hustlers who didn't need a launch pad or a midlife crisis to fly. While pterosaurs were still gliding around like overcooked umbrellas, birds were zipping through forests, nesting in trees and tweeting. In every sense of the word, pterosaurs tried to keep up. They diversified. Some got bigger. Some got weirder. One species literally evolved a head crest taller than its own body because apparently they thought aviation needed fashion. But feathers beat fashion. Every single time. Then the asteroid hit. Boom. Global blackout. Ecosystem shut down. Dinosaurs? Mostly dead. Pterosaurs? Very dead. Birds? Still kicking. Why? Because birds were small, adaptable, could eat anything, could live anywhere, could raise kids in a rock crevice if necessary. Meanwhile, a pterosaur was probably standing there in the ash cloud going, "Wait, is that the moon coming closer?" This wasn't just extinction. It was an embarrassment. Imagine the post-asteroid afterlife reunion. Dinosaurs huddled around a lava lamp, and a sad pteranodon muttering, "Bro, I could glide 200 miles in a day." Then a smug pigeon flies by and drops a load on his fossil. And let's talk about personality. Birds may be loud and obnoxious, but they've got style, intelligence, tricks. Some sing. Some build nests that look like modern art. Some use tools. Pterosaurs? They just existed like flying crocodiles who smelled like fish and regret. And don't get us started on their breath. Fossil halitosis. Anyone? So here's the truth bomb. Pterosaurs were the VHS tape of flight. Groundbreaking, sure, but utterly obsolete the minute Blu-ray, birds came along. Today, birds are stealing your fries, starring in Disney movies, and getting worshipped by entire cultures. Pterosaurs? You can buy a plushie of them at a museum gift shop right next to a clearance T-Rex mug. Because in evolution, it doesn't matter who did it first. It matters who did it better. Part 5. The Unreturnable Exit. 1. The world before the bang, Earth's meltdown mode. Before the big rock from space punched Earth in the face, things were already getting dicey. You could say the Cretaceous period was entering its midlife crisis. Volcanic eruptions were popping off like Earth was trying to cosplay as a dragon. The climate? Chaotic mess. Oceans were doing the vanishing act. Say goodbye to beachfront property. Hello to fossilized regrets. It was like the planet's CPU was overheating and nobody could find the fan. Imagine you're trying to survive this mess as a dinosaur. You've got your morning migration, hunting chores, mating dances that would make a flamingo blush, and now the sky's throwing ash clouds. Temperatures are glitching, and your favorite lake just ghosted you. It's survival of the fittest, but the fittest are lagging like they're on 1-bar Wi-Fi during a Zoom call. Massive volcanic events, we're talking Siberian trap-level drama. We're spewing CO2 like your uncle ranting on Facebook. This wasn't a gentle Earth burp. It was more like the planet rage quit. Ecosystems started dominoing. Coral reefs collapsed like bad Jenga towers. Species started dropping out like your friends in a group project. Dinosaurs began to feel it. Food chains snapped. Herbivores wandered aimlessly like they forgot what salad looked like. Predators got desperate. Even the mighty T-Rex probably had moments of existential dread. Standing in the rain, tiny arms outstretched, wondering if maybe, just maybe, it should have learned to cook. Let's not forget about the marine life. The oceans were warming faster than your office microwave. Plankton, the microscopic MVPs of the food web, started vanishing. Without them, everything from ammonites to giant marine reptiles were left screaming into the abyss. Or, silently dying, but screaming is more dramatic. Meanwhile, tectonic plates were on the move, breaking up Pangaea like a messy divorce. Continents drifted apart, sea levels played musical chairs, and habitats shrank faster than your weekend. The planet was turning into one big group chat of doom. Volcanoes spamming emojis, oceans rage quitting, and the climate screaming in all caps. But through it all, some creatures were weirdly unbothered. Crocodiles lounged like they had front row seats to the apocalypse. Mammals were sneaking around in the shadows, hoarding snacks and evolutionary potential. Birds, already flapping their way toward the future like, "Don't mind us, we'll just fly above this mess." It's like the dinosaurs were headlining the show, but backstage, the understudies were warming up. The meteor was just the final act. Earth had been spiraling long before that flaming space rock decided to speedrun an extinction event. Social structure? Completely unhinged. Apex predators were suddenly out-hunted by packs of starving mini-raptors that operated like unhinged office interns on deadline. Triceratops were getting into turf wars over mud puddles. Herds scattered, alliances shattered. If you think your group chat drama is bad, try being a herbivore during Cretaceous climate chaos. Imagine being ghosted by your watering hole and stomped on by a migrating sauropod in the same day. Meanwhile, some species just full-on gave up. There were probably dinosaurs that looked at the smog-choked skies and thought, I've had a good run. One last mating dance, one last fern snack, and off they went. Emotionally checked out, spiritually unavailable, evolutionarily done. And if you think humans invented anxiety, nope. Dinosaurs were probably the OG overthinkers. Imagine a Parasaurolophus lying awake at night thinking, why did the sun not show up today? Is it mad at me? Am I the asteroid? Climate change was like that one coworker who always ruins the group project. Loud, erratic, and impossible to fire. Seasons became unpredictable. Rainy seasons didn't show up. Droughts overstayed their welcome. Imagine a world where your whole survival plan is based on the spring rains and the only thing falling from the sky is volcanic ash and disappointment. And through it all, mammals, the sneaky, fur-covered little gremlins of evolution, were out here thriving. Not flashy, not dominant, but consistent. Hiding in holes, stealing eggs, being the evolutionary equivalent of that one intern who ends up running the company after the CEO gets fired. As for the plants, Let's just say the botany department was not okay. Giant cycads and ferns started dying off. Flowering plants struggled to reproduce in the smoggy, moody weather. Forests looked like post-apocalyptic movie sets, minus the dramatic soundtrack. It was photosynthesis meets existential dread. And then you had the bugs. Bless their creepy little hearts. Insects tried to keep pollinating, but when every bloom is shriveling like your high school dreams, there's only so much you can do. Even the mosquitoes were like, you know what? I think I'll skip this blood meal. So yeah, if you're picturing a sudden apocalypse, think again. This was a slow, boiling pot of chaos. The asteroid, just the lid slamming shut. By the time the space rock arrived, Earth was already a stressed-out mess with the emotional stability of a cracked iPhone screen. Dinosaurs weren't just wiped out. They were pre-canceled, soft-launched into extinction. The asteroid just made it official. So if you've ever had a week where everything goes wrong, laptop crashes, fridge breaks, your crush ghosts you, and your favorite show gets canceled, congratulations. You've experienced a microdose of the Cretaceous endgame. And the dinosaurs, already wheezing, glitching, and wondering why the weather felt like a broken thermostat. Survival wasn't just hard. It was a cosmic joke, and they were the punchline. 2. Chicxulub impact. Alt plus F4 for planet Earth. Let's talk about the worst pop-up notification in Earth's history. A 10-kilometer wide space rock, traveling at 20 times the speed of sound, basically told the entire Mesozoic era, hey, mind if I crash? And crash it did. Right into what is now the Yucatan Peninsula. The Chicxulub impact wasn't just an asteroid. It was the ultimate rage quit. Alt plus F4 on a planetary scale. First came the flash, brighter than 1,000 suns. Dinosaurs probably didn't even have time to finish thinking, what the F? Before everything within 1,000 miles got vaporized. This wasn't just a bad day. This was the last day for about 75% of all species. Shockwaves rippled out like Earth just got sucker-punched by the universe. Tsunamis taller than skyscrapers screamed across oceans. Forests caught fire thousands of kilometers away. It wasn't just destruction. It was overkill, like using a tactical nuke to kill a cockroach. Then came the dust, mountains of it. Soot, ash, tiny rock particles, flung high into the atmosphere like confetti from hell. The sky went dark. Global blackout. Photosynthesis, dead. Food chains collapsed like a sketchy folding chair. Planet Earth became a cosmic ghost town. And the temperature drop? Oh boy, think of the worst winter you've ever had. Now subtract the sun. That's what it was like. We're talking freezing conditions in summer. It was like being left on read by the sun itself. Plants died. Herbivores starved. Carnivores had no one left to munch. It was extinction bingo and everyone won. Imagine you're a dinosaur waking up the day after impact. Half the forest is on fire. The other half is under ash. You can't see the sun. Your mate left. Your favorite fern cafe is closed forever. Even the annoying neighbor raptors are gone. The world smells like burnt everything and regret. Now multiply that experience by every continent. That was the state of Earth. Even if you somehow survived the initial blast, the post-impact world was basically an unskippable boss fight with every debuff imaginable. Poison air, darkness, hunger, freezing cold, all while trying to avoid collapsing trees, flash floods, and whatever was left of your sanity. And let's be real, no creature was emotionally prepared. Not even the smug, doom-proof crocodiles. If Earth were a group chat, Dinosaurs would be typing, so what now? While mammals quietly changed the admin rights, survival turned into pure RNG. Some burrowing mammals, certain birds, and maybe a few amphibians managed to squeak through. Why? Because they were small, scrappy, lived underground, or didn't need much food. Basically, nature picked the creatures equivalent to that one guy in your office who always brings instant noodles and never uses vacation days. Reliable, forgettable, but somehow still around when everyone else quits. Meanwhile, your T-Rex, apex predator, literal king of the food chain, was lying face down in the mud wondering why raw power and giant teeth weren't enough. Turns out evolution has a cruel sense of humor. When the sky falls, you don't need muscles. You need a good hiding spot and zero expectations. This wasn't just extinction. It was cosmic irony. For millions of years, dinosaurs ruled like celebrities at a party they never thought would end. Then bam! Asteroid crashes the party, unplugs the lights, sets the buffet on fire, and ghosts everyone. No warnings, no change password email, just boom, server offline. But let's rewind a bit because the Chicxulub event was more than a one-hit KO. The real horror was in the cascade of dominoes it knocked down. When the impactor struck, it hit a sulfate-rich patch of Earth's crust, essentially turning the Gulf of Mexico into a global-scale stink bomb. Sulfur aerosols blanketed the stratosphere, reflecting sunlight and supercharging the global cooling. Not just BRRR cold, more like you're a cold-blooded lizard and now you're frozen soup cold. Volcanic activity didn't stop to help either. Deccan traps, India's massive lava-spewing rage tantrum, had already been spewing gases like it was trying to one-up the asteroid. The result? Acid rain, global dimming, and atmospheric chemistry so broken it needed therapy. Between the impact and the lava fields, Earth was doing its best impression of a dying video game map. Marine life got absolutely dunked on. The oceans, already stressed from previous warming, turned acidic. Coral reefs said nope and dissolved. Ammonites, those swirly-shelled icons of ancient seas, vanished overnight. Anything that depended on plankton, so everything found itself RSVPing to the extinction party. And yet, somehow, Earth kept going. The impact aftermath lasted for years. Years of darkness, years of starvation. Entire generations of surviving species never saw the sun. Ecosystems reset. If you were a scavenger or generalist, congrats, you were suddenly evolution's golden child. Everyone else? Welcome to the fossil record. Birds, by the way, were the lucky breakouts. Descended from theropod dinosaurs, they were small, adaptable, and some could fly far away from the worst zones. Think of them as the legacy sequel that actually worked. Jurassic Park lied, the dinosaurs didn't come back. They never truly left. And while we're here, mammals, oh mammals, those scurrying, egg-stealing, night-hustling underdogs finally got their shot. When the big guys went down, these little fuzzballs didn't throw a party. They just got to work, evolving, adapting, multiplying like Wi-Fi routers in a college dorm. From this silent, ash-covered apocalypse rose a new world. Colder, quieter, weirder. Dinosaurs weren't just gone. They were now oil, bones, and future museum attractions. Their reign ended not with a fight, but with a blinding light and an uncomfortable silence. So what did we learn? That being the biggest, loudest, and flashiest doesn't mean you're safe. That sometimes the world presses Ctrl plus Alt plus Del and reboots the biosphere. That the universe doesn't do warnings, just follow-ups. And maybe, just maybe, that the next time you complain about a Monday, remember, at least it's not the Cretaceous-Paleogene boundary. Because because nothing says bad day like being literally history. 3. Chain reaction, when the food pyramid became Jenga. Alright, picture this. Earth has just been sucker punched by a giant space rock. The atmosphere is choking on soot. Sunlight's been ghosted. And everything smells like the aftermath of a barbecue hosted by Satan. But wait, it gets worse. Because this isn't just a one-time oops event. Oh no, this is the point where Mother Nature decided to pull the tablecloth from under the global dinner table, and everything on it came crashing down. Welcome to the collapse of the food chain. The world's slowest, darkest, most depressing group project failure. Let's break it down like it's your ex's self-esteem. First to go, the plants. Photosynthesis tapped out. No sun, no green. All the lush, leafy stuff turned into crusty, dead houseplants on a planetary scale. And without plants, herbivores were basically like vegans at a steakhouse. Screwed. The plant eaters, bless their dumb leafy hearts, went from grazing and chilling to panicking and starving in record time. Triceratops. Hadrosaurus? Bye-bye. Ankylosaurs? All that armor and still couldn't block famine. It was like watching the Avengers disappear in slow motion, except instead of Thanos snapping, it was an ecological faceplant. Now let's talk predators. Carnivores are the drama queens of the animal kingdom. They need food that's already been alive, which is a very inconvenient diet choice when everything alive is currently dying. Tyrannosaurus rex, once the nightmare fuel of the late Cretaceous, suddenly found himself wandering the wasteland like a sad gym bro with no protein shakes left. All biceps, no bites. Think of the food web as a high-stakes game of Jenga. Every block is a species. Take out the plants? That's pulling 3 blocks at once from the bottom row. Everything else, the herbivores, the predators, the parasites, the scavengers, just collapses into a pile of biological regret. It wasn't just extinction, it was a whole-ass server crash. The oceans, oh, they were no better. The plankton, tiny, floaty, photosynthetic MVPs of the marine world, said we're out. And everything that depended on them started glitching. Filter feeders, small fish, big fish, giant marine reptiles. It was like the underwater cast of Finding Nemo collectively failed to respawn. Picture an ichthyosaur with nothing to eat, slowly realizing he's unemployed in an ecosystem-wide recession. That's the vibe. Even the mosasaurs, those apex sea lizards with their I-eat-everything attitudes, couldn't hustle their way out of starvation. Turns out, swagger doesn't feed you when the entire menu just vanished. Scavengers? They had a brief moment of glory. For a while, the buffet of corpses was basically an all-you-can-eat extinction smorgasbord. But the problem with feasting on the dead is that eventually, there's nothing left but bones and regret. So unless you were into paleo-keto diets, aka air, you were doomed. And just when you thought things couldn't get darker, literally or metaphorically, the climate kept piling on the LS. Acid rain, freezing temperatures, wildfires, famine, social collapse. Okay, maybe not social, but if dinosaurs had therapy, they'd need it. This wasn't a single disaster. It was a domino line of doom stretching across millions of lives and ecosystems. Let's pause for a relatable metaphor. Ever had a group project where one person flakes and the rest of the team collapses in a panic spiral? Now imagine that person is the sun, and the group project is life on Earth. The food chain didn't just break, it imploded. Entire trophic levels blinked out like someone rage-quitting a video game. The balance between producers, consumers, and decomposers collapsed into a mess of who's even left? And can I eat this rock? The answer was no. No, you can't eat the rock. Even the mighty insects weren't spared. Some survived, sure, cockroaches, ants, whatever that creepy thing in your bathroom is. But many species just vanished. The extinction didn't care how many legs you had, how cute your babies were, or how many followers you'd have on Instagram. If your food was gone, you were next. And don't get me started on the megafauna drama. Giant anything? Instant death sentence. Big needs big food. No food equals no hope. It's like that one guy in your office who needs 3 espressos, a steak, and a motivational podcast just to get through Monday. Now take all that away. He's not making it to Tuesday. Meanwhile, the survivors were the weirdos. The small, the meek, the ones you'd never invite to your birthday party because they smell like damp laundry and eat bugs. These evolutionary background characters suddenly became the main cast. Mammals? Tiny, hairy weirdos who dug holes and minded their business. Frogs? Moist little cryptids with no ambition but insane survival stats. Insects? The ones that could hibernate or feed on decaying junk stuck around like bad office wallpaper. In short, the apocalypse was the great equalizer, and by equalizer we mean bulldozer. It didn't just erase species. It rewrote the rules. The food web got deleted and redrawn with a sad little crayon labeled, "Try again." Let's get petty for a second. You know that one coworker who keeps getting promoted even though they bring nothing to the table? That was the mammals post-extinction. No one expected them to shine. But the dinosaurs, bless their thunder thighs, hogged the spotlight for too long. When the stage burned down, the understudies finally got their solo. And they nailed it by default because literally everyone else was dead. Even ecosystems that didn't get direct asteroid impact suffered from what we'll call secondary trauma. Forests collapsed, wetlands dried, river systems choked on ash. It was the world's worst renovation project, and nature had lost the blueprint. The extinction wasn't just a tragedy, it was an ecological roast. Every fancy adaptation? Useless. Your horns? Pretty, now pointless. Your wings? Congrats, you can fly into the void. Your razor-sharp teeth? Cool, but who's left to bite? It's tempting to romanticize the dinosaurs. Their grandeur, their power, their Hollywood glow-up. But let's not forget, they got taken down by bad luck and a lack of contingency planning. No food bank, no emergency rations. Just vibes and fossils. Meanwhile, your great-great-great-gazillionth grandparents, the equivalent of living under a desk with a pocket sandwich, crawled out of the chaos and said, maybe now's a good time to evolve a prefrontal cortex. So next time someone tells you being at the top makes you untouchable, remind them, the T. Rex had 60 teeth and still lost to a rock. And when the food chain falls, it doesn't matter how big you are, how loud you roar, or how many likes your hunting video would have gotten. Because at the end of the day, even the kings starve when the pyramid crumbles. For grand opening of the post-Dino era, who made the cut and who got ghosted. So the dust has barely settled, the screaming has stopped, well, mostly, and the earth looks like it just rage quit a Jurassic group chat. The old A-listers of the animal kingdom are toast, literally. Now comes the weirdest part, figuring out who actually survived this extinction-level unfriending. Welcome to the ultimate reality show, Survivor KPG Edition. First up, let's pour one out for our fallen favorites. T. Rex. Triceratops. Gone. Pterosaurs. Crash-landed. Mosasaurs? Evaporated. The ruling class of the Cretaceous got wiped off the face of the planet harder than your browser history after a breakup. And just like that, the spotlight swung over to nature's background extras. Enter the unlikely underdogs. Let's start with mammals. Yes, those mammals. At the time, they were tiny, squishy, and mostly nocturnal weirdos that looked like they were constantly late to a funeral. But guess what? Hiding, hoarding food, and being perpetually anxious finally paid off. While the big flashy creatures were too busy being majestic and starving to death, the mammals were living rent-free underground with bug snacks and zero drama. Rodents, shrew-like critters, early primates, basically anything that looked like it belonged in your pantry at 3 a.m. survived. They didn't roar. They didn't fight. They noped their way through the apocalypse and won by default. And now, one of them is writing this script. Evolution, you sneaky little plot twist. Then there were the birds. Technically dinosaurs, but the kind you wouldn't feel intimidated by at the gym. Their dino cousins were out there flexing claws and growing elaborate crests, while these guys were busy shrinking, sprouting feathers, and figuring out how to glide past all the incoming doom. While Rex was looking for one last meal, proto-birds were like, what if we, left? Flight, small size, nesting habits, birds had the holy trinity of survival traits. They made it through the worst mass extinction since Game of Thrones, Season 8, and came out chirping. Meanwhile, every other airborne creature crashed and burned like a paper plane in a hurricane. Let's not forget the reptiles who said, meh, we'll just chill. Crocodiles survived. Turtles thrived. Lizards and snakes slithered right past the carnage. Why? Low metabolism, aquatic or burrowing lifestyles, and a total disinterest in the drama. If survival was a club, these guys showed up in sweatpants, stayed low-key, and left with the trophy. Insects, oh, they were built for this. Nature's cocky little multi-tools. Many died, sure, but many stuck around, especially the generalists. Bugs that could eat basically anything, breed like it's spring break, and shrug off climate catastrophes like a mild inconvenience. Cockroaches? Oh, absolutely still here, probably judging us. Plants? Same story. The fancy ones? Gone. Delicate flowers? Good night. But the boring, tough-as-nails species like ferns, grasses, and conifers? These green zombies just kept growing. Ferns in particular thrived like influencers on a new social media app. They saw a gap and flooded it. Marine life had a mixed report card. Coral reefs, dead. Ammonites, extinct. But some fish, mollusks, and bottom feeders survived because, guess what? Hanging out in the deep sea and minding your own business is apparently a rock-solid survival plan. So what do we learn here? Size doesn't matter. Flash doesn't last. And having teeth the size of kitchen knives won't save you when the sky goes black and the buffet closes. The survivors weren't the strongest or the loudest. They were the smallest, the shyest, the ones who said, you know what? I'm just gonna nap in this hole for 6 months and hope it all blows over. The end of the Cretaceous wasn't just an extinction. It was a casting call for the next era. All the divas were gone. The understudies got bumped up. And in the silent, smoky aftermath, the future was handed to the quiet, the quirky, the adaptable. And now here we are, descendants of paranoid, nocturnal furballs, watching pigeons, living dinosaurs, fight over French fries, while cockroaches plot their next 100 million year survival arc. Evolution doesn't play fair, plays for keeps. Part 6. The Survivors and Remnants of the Universe. 1. Mammals, the deadline survivors, aka the real main characters. When the Chicxulub asteroid did its best impression of a cosmic rage quit and turned Earth into a flaming dumpster, most species hit Ctrl+Alt+Delete on their existence. But not mammals. Oh no. While dinosaurs were out there doing their final dramatic exits like bad actors in a soap opera, mammals were already halfway under the bed, clutching snacks and whispering, "We're not dying for your plotline." These critters weren't big. They weren't glamorous. They didn't get the magazine covers. They were basically the evolutionary equivalent of that quiet coworker who doesn't join meetings, always mutes their mic, and yet somehow ends up with the promotion when the company downsizes. Small, unassuming, nocturnal, basically every red flag your ex ignored, and yet they won. While the dinosaurs were screaming at the sky like Gen Zs losing Wi-Fi, mammals just noped underground like introverts dodging brunch plans. They were the masters of doing the absolute minimum with maximum results. No drama, no spotlight, just survival. They weren't picky eaters either. Post-apocalypse menu? Charred bugs, rotting roots, maybe a sprinkle of radioactive mushroom. Delicious. And let's be real. If you've ever eaten instant noodles for 5 days straight before payday, you understand their struggle. They were built for end times, the original meal preppers minus the Instagram stories. And the burrows? Oh honey, the burrows were everything. Think nuclear bunkers meets gamer dens. While the planet burned like a Tinder date gone wrong, these fuzzballs were wrapped in dirt like a doomsday burrito, casually waiting for the chaos to blow over. Introverts? Please, these were hide-and-seek grandmasters. Let's take a second to appreciate the reproductive strategy. Dinosaurs laid eggs out in the open like they wanted their kids to get eaten. Mammals? Birth in secret, nurse in shadows, raise a family like it's a crime. And with milk, built-in room service for your offspring when the world has no snacks. It's giving Apocalypse Mom of the Year. And while we're here, shout out to the mammal moms. Feeding babies while dodging acid rain and asteroid winter? Iconic. You think your morning routine is rough? Try breastfeeding in a burning forest while ash blots out the sun. That's not a parent. That's a superhero in a fur coat. Now, let's not pretend mammals were elegant. These were not majestic beasts. They were twitchy, jittery, awkward fuzzballs who looked like half-sentient socks. But they had one thing no dino could touch: the audacity to stay alive. They were the biological version of "don't mind me," just surviving out here with anxiety and bad posture. You want a metaphor? Dinosaurs were like flashy influencers. Loud, dramatic, constantly posting. Mammals? They were lurking in the comments, taking notes, waiting for the algorithm, read asteroid, to take out the competition. And when the dust settled, guess who was still around? Not T-Rex, not Triceratops. It was the weird mole thing in the dirt eating its own body weight in beetles. The same one whose great-great-great-whatever grandkid would one day invent oat milk, NFTs, and dating apps that no one uses past Wednesday. Let's bring it closer to home. If you've ever ghosted someone because your anxiety couldn't handle a coffee date, congrats, you're channeling your inner Paleocene mammal. Avoidance isn't always a flaw. Sometimes it's survival, baby. These creatures didn't just dodge death. They straight up finessed extinction. While the big guys flailed and failed, mammals were playing the long con. A game of patience, quiet rebellion, and low-key hoarding. The apocalypse was their career launch. You ever seen a glow-up take 10 million years? Because here it is. They diversified like your friend who invests in crypto, Pokemon cards, and artisan pickles. Swimmers, gliders, climbers, burrowers, they tried it all. Some were weird little balls of fluff, others were toothy gremlins with attitude. Earth was a mess, but mammals treated it like an all-you-can-mutate buffet. They were biology's chaotic neutral. Not heroes, not villains, just there, vibing in the void, surviving on bad decisions and nervous energy. The original Gen Zs, traumatized, adaptive, and allergic to attention. And let's not forget, they were petty. Oh yes, somewhere, deep in their furry little hearts, they knew that while the cool kids were turning into fossils, they'd be out here building civilizations and inventing 5G. So next time someone posts a motivational quote about lions or eagles, send them a picture of a prehistoric rat thing and say, "This is the reason you exist. Because mammals didn't roar. They didn't fly. They just didn't die." And in a world that literally exploded, not dying was the flex of the century. To all the anxious, weird, sleep-deprived, introverted survivors out there, congratulations. Evolution sees you, and she says, "Well played." 2 birds. When the underdog became the overachiever. You ever meet someone who peaked in high school, then bumped into their awkward cousin who now runs 5 startups, speaks Mandarin, and does CrossFit before breakfast? Welcome to the glow-up of the century. Birds. The post-apocalyptic weirdos who watched the world burn and said, "Cute, now watch this." See, when the asteroid did its Michael Bay explosion thing and most dinosaurs noped out of existence, a few clever little theropods stayed behind. But instead of clinging to their T-Rex legacy, big teeth, small arms, massive ego, they did what no influencer ever dares. They reinvented. Feathers, on point. Size, travel-friendly. Attitude, savage but subtle. And let's be honest, the smaller they got, the more unkillable they became. Big dinos were too dramatic, too noticeable, too Kardashian. Birds? They went full stealth mode. They were the side characters no one saw coming. You ever try catching a sparrow with a bad attitude? Exactly. These creatures weren't going extinct, they were going global. While mammals were digging bunkers and panic snacking on roasted bugs like broke students before payday, birds took to the skies like, "Y'all enjoy your dirt. We'll be in Bali." Migration wasn't just survival, it was a flex. Seasonal travel, no suitcase, no passport, just pure avian audacity. They were the original remote workers, flying thousands of kilometers without burnout or baggage fees. Meanwhile, you're here complaining your legs hurt from standing in line at Starbucks. Pathetic. And let's talk fashion. Birds didn't just survive, they served looks while doing it. Flamingos, standing on one leg, pink as a Pepto-Bismol bottle, judging your entire existence with one eye. Owls, literal goth librarians with neck rotation that screams, "I've seen your browser history, and I am not impressed." Parrots? They're basically tropical Gen Zs, colorful, loud, and smarter than your manager. You think peacocks evolved that tail for mating? Please, it's for strutting past their extinct cousins like, "Remember when you laughed at my feathers? Who's buried in the sediment now, Chad?" And chickens? Oh, chickens. The biggest plot twist in natural history. They went from terrifying dinosaur predator to bucket of wings. But deep down, they know. Every time you bite into that spicy drumstick, just know you're disrespecting the descendant of a creature that once ruled the earth. Enjoy your false sense of dominance while they plot their feathery revenge. Even pigeons, yes, the dirty little guys strutting around McDonald's parking lots, are hardcore survivors. You call them trash birds. They call you over-dependent on GPS and emotionally unstable. They've survived war zones, air pollution, and the rise of TikTok. You couldn't last 10 minutes without Wi-Fi. And geese? Geese are demons in feathered form. Evolution looked at birds and said, "Let's make one that feels like a knife with wings and a personal vendetta." They don't just chase humans, they humiliate them. You could be a grown adult with a mortgage, and one honk from a goose will send you running like a toddler at a haunted house. Let's be clear, Birds didn't win because they were strong. They won because they were adaptable, weird, and completely over everyone's nonsense. They didn't care about status. They didn't throw tantrums like the dinosaurs. They just pivoted, quietly, efficiently, like your friend who suddenly went vegan, started a kombucha business, and now lives in Iceland. Some of them went aquatic, hello, penguins. Others became opera singers, looking at you, songbirds, and a few just became flightless blobs that hang out and give zero flaps. Kiwis, we see you. And guess what? All valid. Because in a world that imploded, these little weirdos diversified harder than a crypto bro after a stock market crash. Every feather, every chirp, every passive-aggressive poop on your car windshield, it's legacy, it's petty vengeance, it's survival with flair. It's a middle feather to every extinction-level event, from asteroids to air fryers. So next time you see a bird, whether it's a smug seagull stealing fries or a hummingbird doing aerial yoga at 4,000 wing beats per minute, show some respect. You're not looking at a cute animal. You're looking at a living fossil with generational trauma and zero tolerance for your nonsense. Because in the greatest extinction event of the last 100 million years, birds didn't just walk away. They flew. Mic drop. Feather flutter. 3. The flirting masters and sweet-smelling saviors of humankind, aka flowers. Still hot, still winning, still draining your wallet. When Earth turned into a planetary hot pot and the dinosaurs flailed around like an unfinished Netflix series canceled after season 1, guess who was still standing? That's right, flowers. Those delicate little divas you thought only existed for Instagram backgrounds and basic photo ops? Yeah, they were thriving. While the skies rained fire and the oceans boiled like instant noodles, flowers showed up in full glam, petals fluttering, perfume on point, as if the apocalypse was just another Tuesday. While the prehistoric plants were busy growing tall like insecure guys compensating for something, only to die dramatically because they didn't know how to duck, flowers picked the opposite strategy. The smaller, the sexier. They didn't try to reach the heavens. They just wanted to reach the bees. And guess what? That was enough to win the evolutionary game. Real talk. Has anyone ever fallen in love over a potato? No. But over a single flower? Thousands. Millions. Wars were stopped, marriages started, and breakups temporarily fixed. Flowers didn't just survive, they dominated. From the Cretaceous to your latest failed situationship, every confession, apology, make-up plea, and I swear this time is different moment has come with a flower in hand. Valentine's Day? Thank the flowers. Women's Day? Flower industry. Your broke bank account every March 8th? You know who to blame. And the genius behind it? Flowers didn't just throw seeds into the wind and hope for the best like some desperate Tinder strategy. No, they flirted with bugs. Legit biological thirst traps. Sweet scent like a pickup line. Vibrant colors like a Photoshop filtered feed. Nectar as bait. Bees and butterflies thought they were just grabbing a snack. Next thing they knew, pollen all over their fuzzy little butts. Pollination achieved. No dinner, no awkward texting, just smooth, manipulative sex by proxy. Evolutionary gold. Gen Z, listen up. This is how you flirt without getting ghosted. And while we're at it, let's not pretend men are innocent bystanders here. How many times have they screwed up, zoned out, emotionally malfunctioned, or said something dumb during Mercury in retrograde and tried to fix it with a damn bouquet? That's right. Flowers are the ultimate crisis PR tool for romantic disasters. Red roses, I cheated, but I'm passionate about us. Sunflowers, I forgot your birthday, but look, big. Sunny distraction. Peonies, sorry I liked your best friend's bikini pic from 2015. Lilies, I mourn your trust in me. It's psychological warfare with stems and cellophane. And it works. Time and time again. The global floral industry exists because people keep messing up, and flowers keep pretending things are fine. But flowers don't just thrive in romance. Oh no, they've weaponized meaning. Entire languages have been created around what type of flower you give. It's basically the original emoji pack, long before texting was a thing. Want to call someone out in 1800s England without risking a duel? Send a black tulip. Want to say, I hate you but you're hot? That's an orchid. Want to send mixed signals? Baby's breath always. Victorian texts weren't just letters. They were floral shade disguised in poetry. Subtweeting, but make it botany. Now let's look at the raw numbers. Today, flowering plants account for over 90% of all known plant species. 90. They didn't just survive the apocalypse. They rebuilt the entire aesthetic of the planet. Forests, meadows, your mom's living room, all floral real estate. If the world is a runway, flowers own the catwalk and the spotlight. And their scent? You think Chanel No. 5 came out of nowhere? Every perfume, candle, overpriced soap, and those suspiciously natural room sprays are just flowers flexing centuries of chemical warfare disguised as charm. Let's not forget the carnivorous ones either. The ones that don't just flirt, they bite. Venus flytraps, pitcher plants, corpse flowers that smell like death but attract flies like it's a party. These aren't gentle petals anymore. They're full-on mafia dons with floral flair. Come close, sweetheart, they whisper. Snap. Too late. And the biggest power move of all? Flowers made us believe we domesticated them. In reality, they've trained humans to cultivate, water, protect, and transport them across the globe like unpaid interns. All to make sure they reproduce. We're just their well-dressed delivery boys. You ever wonder why every major human ritual includes flowers? Weddings? Check. Funerals? Check. First dates, baby showers, divorce parties, that one time you panicked because your situationship started liking other people's stories on Instagram. Flowers were there, watching, judging, cashing in. In fact, flowers are probably the only living things that benefit equally from both love and death. No matter the mood, they show up, get displayed, and leave people crying either from emotion or pollen allergies. That's versatility. And here's the real kicker. All this power, all this control, and they don't even speak. They don't run. They don't scream. They just exist. Pretty, poisonous, persuasive, petaled perfection. So next time someone gives you a bouquet, just because, take a moment. Behind those blooms lies a saga of silent seduction, psychological manipulation, and survival instincts sharper than your ex's side eye. Respect the drip, bow to the bloom, and maybe water your houseplants more than once a month. They're watching for grass and fish. One took over the land, the other took over dinner. Let's talk about two wildly underrated comeback stories. Grass and fish. One turned the planet into an endless salad bar. The other became everyone's Friday night dinner. Both said, "Forget glory. We're going for world domination." Grass didn't scream for attention. Crept, quietly, like that coworker who starts just helping out and suddenly runs the whole department. Grass didn't ask for permission. It rolled out a green carpet and told the trees, "Move over, We're the lawn now. Post-extinction Earth was bare, burnt, and begging for a makeover. Enter grass, with its "I thrive under pressure" vibe and roots deeper than your childhood trauma. Wildfires? No problem. Grazing animals? Thanks for the haircut. It spread across continents like it had Wi-Fi and nothing to lose. And just when you thought grass couldn't be more iconic, it invented savannas. That's right, home of elephants, lions, David Attenborough documentaries. All thanks to plants that grow like your ex's emotional baggage. Low, persistent, and impossible to kill. While the rest of the planet was turning into a flaming pizza left too long in the oven, the fish just kept swimming. No panic, no scheduled changes, just a casual flick of the tail and a "not my problem, babes." As entire ecosystems got wiped clean, and Earth's surface sizzled like a planet-sized frying pan, the fish were still vibing underwater, still showing up to work, still not growing legs. Why? Because when you've never left your warm, quiet aquatic bubble, you don't really care that the sky is falling and dinosaurs are screaming. Fish are the undefeated champions of avoidance. No caves, no wings, no need to cradle babies during a firestorm. All they need is a fin, a mouth, and a strong sense of "none of my business." And let's talk about variety. These creatures diversified faster than your ex's emotions after a breakup. Bony fish, cartilaginous fish, spineless fish, fish with glowing butts, fish that live so deep even light's like, "Nah, I'm good." Each species is basically a fever dream scribbled by a caffeinated 5-year-old with crayons and no adult supervision. Some evolved to survive with barely any oxygen. Others can handle salt water, fresh water, swamp juice, volcanic ash broth, and probably Coca-Cola if needed. Forget cats. Leave a goldfish in a rainwater bucket for 3 months, and not only will it still be alive, it'll judge you with the dead-eyed stare of someone who's seen things. Then came the real plot twist. One fish looked around and said, "Legs. I want legs." Enter the lungfish, casually flopping through the mud and inhaling air like it just discovered free samples. They treated the mass extinction like a career fair. These trailblazers are the reason you, dear reader, proud owner of 2 legs and 1,000 responsibilities, now exist. So next time you barely survive a brutal exam, a messy breakup, or a family dinner where your aunt asked if you've gained a little weight, remember this. You are the descendant of a fish, a quiet, stubborn, emotionally unavailable fish that didn't try to be flashy. You just didn't die. And in a post-apocalyptic world, sometimes that's all it takes to become a legend. The show must go on. Life after the Dino mic drop. So the dinosaurs are dead. Not metaphorically. Not ghosted and never texted back dead. We're talking literally vaporized by a space rock the size of Mount Doom, roasted in a planetary air fryer, and served with a side of extinction. But the show? Oh, it didn't stop. Earth, as always, said, "Next!" The curtains fell on the Mesozoic like a badly written season finale, and the Paleogene walked in like a fresh reboot. New cast, lower budget, but somehow even more chaotic. This wasn't a peaceful after-party. This was the weird recovery phase when nature was like, "So, who's still alive?" While sweeping up asteroid debris and emotional trauma, the age of mammals begins with awkward silence. Picture this. The forests are burnt toast, the skies are dusty, the oceans are like soup someone forgot to refrigerate, and out from behind a rock comes a shivering, bug-eyed, rat-like mammal who probably thought, "Wait, am I the main character now? Yes, little buddy, you." The one who used to run from dinosaurs and eat crumbs in the dark. Congrats, you're the lead. No red carpet, no press release. Just a lot of empty real estate, fewer things trying to eat you, and a golden opportunity to absolutely fumble your way into world domination. Birds, hey, remember us? Meanwhile, birds, the surviving feathered drama queens, fluffed themselves off like they just escaped a toxic relationship. Dinosaurs? Never heard of them. They started expanding again. Flying to new places, laying eggs in peace, screaming at 5 a.m. just because they can. If you've ever been rudely awakened by a pigeon outside your window, yes, you're still paying the price for their ancestors surviving. And don't get too smug with your chicken nuggets. That chicken, evolutionarily speaking, that's a T-Rex with commitment issues and a deep fear of pressure cookers. Flowers and grasses, plotting global takeover with vibes and pollen. While animals were panicking, plants were thriving like introverts in lockdown. Flowers kept doing their sexy perfume ad strategy. Look at me, I smell nice. Now come touch me. Oops, you just spread my DNA. And insects were falling for it every time. But the real twist? Grasses. These quiet, unassuming overachievers exploded across the globe like a viral meme. Suddenly, huge swaths of the earth were carpeted in greenery, perfect for small herbivores to munch, hide, and chill. This, friends, is the origin story of meadows, prairies, and your neighbor who mows the lawn at 6 a.m. like a psychopath. Grasses didn't just feed the future, they defined it. From cows to pandas to that guy on a keto diet who still eats corn. You all owe your existence to the post-extinction grass boom. And yes, sugarcane is a grass. So if you've ever cried into a tub of ice cream post-breakup, grass did that. You're welcome. Fish and the "we're still here" flex. Down in the oceans, fish barely noticed the apocalypse. While the land was throwing a full-on funeral, the sea was like, "Can you guys keep it down?" The fish, like always, just swam on. They diversified, glowed, got weird, and some even decided to start evolving into things that could walk. Again, they're that group project teammate who did 5% of the work but somehow ended up CEO. Mammals start getting ideas, dangerous ones. Back on land, mammals began to stretch. Not metaphorically, we mean literally. Limbs elongated, snouts got longer, brains got chunkier. Some started climbing trees, others burrowed. A few went aquatic again like, dry land? Not for me. And slowly, like a terrible movie montage of a makeover, mammals became interesting. Primates appeared. Tiny, curious, clever. The kind who'd look at a coconut and think, what if I opened that? Yeah. You know where this is going. The great dinosaurs Argon identity crisis. But make no mistake, the world missed the dinosaurs. Not in a sentimental way, more like, who's running this mess now? There were no apex predators stomping around. Just mammals nervously trying to fill big shoes or claws, and birds screaming into the void. The planet was in therapy, recovering, processing, crying a little. But evolution? Oh, she never sleeps. She looked at the chaos, shrugged and said, okay, let's try something weirder. And thus, the Paleogene begins. The stage is set. No more thunder lizards crashing through forests. No more sky tyrants with 6-meter wingspans. Now it's time for small, scrappy survivors to become the new architects of Earth's fate. The Paleogene is where mammals begin to rise for real. They're still awkward, still weird, but getting ambitious. They start building new ecosystems, forming strange alliances, and inventing things like live birth, bigger brains, and questionable life choices. It's messy, it's exciting, It's the part of the show where you go, oh no, they gave the weird ones power. You, dear viewer, are a product of this mess. So what did we learn, class? Being big and loud doesn't guarantee survival. The quiet, weird, adaptable ones are the real endgame. Avoid asteroids. Don't underestimate grass. Ever. Fish are probably judging us. The Paleogene, from rodents to rulers. Next time, we'll dive into a world where mammals get bold, birds get freaky, and Earth slowly transforms from a haunted wasteland to a sitcom starring monkeys with ambition. We'll meet the true founders of chaos. Bats, whales, early primates, and possibly your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandma. The one who thought climbing trees was a smart idea. Spoiler, it kinda was. Stay tuned. The dinosaurs may be gone, but the nonsense has only just begun. Mammals, the deadline survivors. When the Chicxulub asteroid hit Earth with the emotional intensity of a galactic breakup, most species got wiped out in a blaze of glory, like idols bombing at their farewell concert. But mammals? Oh no, they didn't care about spotlights. They burrowed underground, hugged their knees, and whispered, "This drama's not mine to die in." They weren't huge, weren't glamorous, had nothing to flex. Honestly, they looked like socks that got lost behind the washing machine. And yet, these were the VIPs nature decided to keep around. Not because they stood out, but because they knew exactly when to stay out of sight. They were biology's chaotic neutral. Not heroes, not villains, just there, vibing in the void, surviving on bad decisions and nervous energy. The original Gen Zs, traumatized, adaptive, and allergic to attention. And let's not forget, they were petty. Oh yes, somewhere, deep in their furry little hearts, they knew that while the cool kids were turning into fossils, they'd be out here building civilizations and inventing 5G. They didn't come out of the apocalypse swinging swords or writing Shakespeare. They came out blinking in the ash-filled dawn, slightly confused, a little hungry, and very much alive, which, in a world where staying alive was the ultimate flex, made them the blueprint. Fast forward a few million years, and what do we get? Humans. Anxiety in pants. The grandkids of anxious mole things who couldn't sit still and accidentally invented brain power. So next time someone posts a motivational quote about lions or eagles, send them a picture of a prehistoric rat thing and say, "This is the reason you exist. Because mammals didn't roar. They didn't fly. They just didn't die." And in a world that literally exploded, not dying was the flex of the century. To all the anxious, weird, sleep-deprived, introverted survivors out there, congratulations. Evolution sees you, and she says, "Well played." Next time on Evolution, Revenge of the Rats, Paleogene begins. So here we are. The curtains have dropped on the dinosaur rock stars. The meteor has rage quit Earth like a bad Tinder date gone nuclear. Giant reptiles? All gone. Volcanoes? Cooling off. Sunlight? Finally peeking through the ash like someone lifting the blackout curtains after a 66 million year hangover. And who's still standing? Not standing. Scurrying. Yes, the small, shy, oddly dressed gremlins of the animal kingdom, mammals. They didn't win by dominance. They won by disappearance. While the T-Rexes were out there doing CrossFit with their little arms, mammals were hiding behind the metaphorical couch cushions of evolution, whispering, "We'll wait." And now, they rise. Welcome to the Paleogene, the age of awkward puberty for life on Earth. Nothing quite knows what it wants to be. Forests regrow, oceans refill, ecosystems hit the big reset button. And mammals? They look around like freshmen on the first day of college, slightly confused, suddenly in charge, and about to make a lot of evolutionary mistakes. Let's be honest, mammals were not cute at this point. No puppies, no pandas, just a lineup of twitchy, bug-eyed furballs with teeth too big for their faces and social skills of a wet sock. But you know what? They were persistent. And persistence in evolution is basically steroids. They start small, eating bugs, avoiding predators, nesting in whatever isn't still smoking. But give them a few million years and boom, they start doing weird stuff, growing bigger, standing up, developing opposable thumbs, asking existential questions like, what if I didn't just survive, but built IKEA furniture? And somewhere along the line, these anxious furballs evolved into something terrifying. A mammal with free will and access to caffeine. That's you, by the way. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Rise of the Misfits. The Paleogene isn't about majestic lions or wise elephants. It's about weirdos. Monotremes laying eggs like they didn't get the memo. Early whales that still had legs. Bats that decided, screw walking, I want to fly, but upside down. It's nature's awkward experimental phase. A time of hybrid nightmares and evolutionary speed dating. The rulebook had been burned with the last meteor. Now it's improv. Plants are like, what if I grew caffeine? Mammals are like, what if I stopped laying eggs? And one weird branch of tree dwellers said, what if I develop fingers? And existential dread. Primates were born. Mistakes were made. This is the era where mammals didn't just adapt. They weirded their way to the top. Planet Earth, now under new management. With the dinosaurs gone, the real estate market was wide open. Forests, empty. Rivers, undisturbed. Grasslands, still under construction. Mammals moved in like recent grads with a dream and a student loan. Clueless but unstoppable. Some stayed underground, those are your introverts. Some took to the trees, your overachievers. And some waddled into the ocean and said, screw land, becoming whales, dolphins, and other aquatic royalty. Meanwhile, one suspicious-looking group started developing bigger brains. Curious, awkward, always watching. You could say they were the proto-version of your cousin who won't stop quoting Elon Musk on Facebook. These early primates were annoying, nosy, and great at not dying. And evolution was like, yup, keep 'em. Spoiler alert, you're the plot twist. Here's the wild part. All this strange little mammal hustle, it leads directly to you. You with your apartment Wi-Fi and trust issues. You binge watching this evolutionary drama through a screen made of glass and existential dread. You whose ancestors used to eat bugs under ferns and now eat overpriced sushi while ghosting people on dating apps. That's the Paleogene gift. From rat-like survivors to TikTok influencers. From burrows to boardrooms. From hiding to high-speed internet. You didn't descend from dinosaurs. You descended from creatures who looked at the apocalypse and said, not today, Satan. So when your boss sends you a passive-aggressive email, or your ex shows up with a new haircut and emotional stability, just remember, your lineage has outlived meteors, volcanic winters, and worse, dial-up internet. You were built for this chaos. Coming up next, evolution gets personal. In the next episode of Earth's Most Dramatic Makeover, you'll witness primates discovering tools and promptly using them to hit each other. A climate shifts causing entire species to pack their bags and move without notice. A bird still acting like they own the place, because honestly, they kinda do. and a furry little gang of upright weirdos who dare to imagine life beyond surviving. They don't just want to live, they want to matter. They want art, language, philosophy, and eventually memes, and they will fail. A lot. But they'll also invent fire, Wi-Fi, and questionable fashion trends. So strap in. The Paleogene is just the warm-up. Because after 60 million years of chaos, cringe, and climbing the food chain one mistake at a time, one species finally figures out how to ask, "But what if I put wheels on it?" Next time on Earth's most absurd drama. The rise of the overthinkers, aka Homo sapiens, in progress. From chewing bark to starting podcasts, it's about to get dangerously self-aware. Don't miss it. A loving slap from the Cretaceous. What dinosaurs taught us about surviving Mondays. If your ancestors survived the apocalypse, you can survive this deadline. A motivational slap, courtesy of the Cretaceous. Feeling tired? A little invisible? Like you're getting through life on stale coffee, cheap anxiety, and a Bluetooth speaker that keeps disconnecting? Another week with no real Saturday. Another month of telling yourself, next week I'll cook something healthy, while your dinner comes in a plastic box with a bonus fortune cookie that lies. You care for everyone. Your team, your boss, your mother, your cat, your plant. Well, you meant to water it last week. But when was the last time you cared for you? Now come on. Lift your head. Just a little. Not because you're feeling strong, but because the dinosaurs didn't die for you to lose to a printer jam and unpaid overtime. Your problems are valid, but also tiny compared to a space rock the size of Mount Doom. Let's put things in perspective. 66 million years ago, our planet got punched in the face by a cosmic wrecking ball traveling at 20 kilometers per second. That's not a metaphor. That's physics. Kicked off a firestorm, boiled oceans, blocked the sun, and deleted 75% of species like someone rage-quitting a group chat. And somehow, your ancestors didn't just survive. They thrived. They didn't have a 401k. They didn't have caffeine. They survived because they could hide, adapt, and eat anything that moved slower than them. Which, frankly, is the energy we need when facing our inbox. So yes, your to-do list is monstrous. But is it asteroid-level monstrous? Has it blocked out the sun yet? No? Then breathe. You've got this. You're not failing. You're evolving, very slowly and while crying in the shower. Let's talk about failure. You think dinosaurs failed because they went extinct? No, they were literally Earth's main characters for over 160 million years. That's longer than most companies exist, most marriages last, and definitely longer than your attention span on a Monday. But things changed. The world shifted, and no amount of flexing those T-Rex biceps, tiny though they were, could stop the meteor. Evolution isn't about never falling. It's about what you do next. Some creatures, like crocodiles, refused to change. They just dug in their heels, went full don't talk to me mode, and waited it out. Some, like birds, got creative, turned into feathered, flighted weirdos and started pooping on statues. And the mammals? They said, you know what? Let's reinvent everything. So maybe your life is a mess. Maybe you still don't know what you want to be when you grow up. That's not failure. That's mutation. And it might just be survival in disguise. You're not lazy. You're just crocodile efficient. Listen, we need to stop shaming naps. Crocodiles nap like it's their religion. They can lie still for hours, days even, just waiting for an opportunity. And when it comes, they strike. Fast, precise, drama-free. So no, you're not lazy. You're conserving energy like an apex predator. Remember, success doesn't always look like hustle culture and 5 a.m. gym selfies. Sometimes it looks like lying in wait, collecting your strength, and biting at the right time. And sometimes it's just taking a nap because your brain feels like a Windows 98 computer and someone just opened 30 tabs. Comparison is a lie told by peacocks. In the Cretaceous, there were creatures with sailbacks, horns, wings, and even glow-in-the-dark butts. Okay, maybe not confirmed, but we wouldn't be surprised. Point is, Earth has always been full of over-the-top attention seekers. And if you're a humble little mouse creature just trying to stay warm and avoid being dinner, it's easy to feel small. But guess who made it to 2025? Not the fashionistas, not the loudest roars. You. So when you're scrolling social media, comparing your Tuesday night noodles to someone's trip to Iceland, remember, the loudest birds often get eaten first. Stay weird. Stay real. Stay under the radar if you need to. You're building something slow and solid, like evolution, like bones, like healing. Take care of yourself. No one else is going to do it for you, except maybe your cat, but only if you die. You know what's underrated? Self-maintenance. In the post-apocalyptic Earth of the Paleocene, life was brutal. No food delivery, no Wi-Fi, no oat milk. Survival required self-regulation. You had to find warmth, make shelter, and most crucially, eat something that didn't kill you back. Today, survival still requires effort. Not always in the dramatic fight a snake for breakfast sense, but in the remembering to drink water and maybe floss once a week sense. So eat that real meal, stretch your arms, scream into a pillow, buy that overpriced soap that smells like forest rain and unresolved childhood trauma. You deserve more than survival. You deserve thriving. But even thriving starts with sleeping before 3 a.m. The planet has rebooted itself 5 times. You can reboot too. Earth has experienced 5 mass extinctions. Each time, everything got wiped clean. Each time, nature hit Control plus Alt plus Delete. And each time, something new rose up. Stranger, softer, sometimes smarter. Okay, except the time we got jellyfish again. The lesson? You can start over. Not just once. As many times as you need. Your burnout isn't permanent. Your bad week isn't destiny. Your career detour isn't the end of the road. It might just be the scenic route to something weirdly wonderful. If bacteria could evolve into whales after the Permian apocalypse, you can pivot from accountant to ceramic artist, or from people pleaser to boundary setter, or from I'll just stay quiet to actually here's what I need. Start small, then do it again and again. You are not behind. You are right on time for your own timeline. The Cretaceous didn't rush. Flowers took millions of years to bloom. Mammals took ages to get good at anything. Seriously, they were just little furry panic buttons for like 60 million years. But they still made it. Eventually. So maybe your life doesn't look like what you imagined by age 25. Or 35. Or even 50. So what? You're not a mist train. You're a slow-blooming forest. You're not late, you're germinating. Take your time. Growth is happening even when it's underground. And finally, you are the hope that survived the fire. The world has ended before. Ash has fallen. Light has vanished. Entire dynasties have crumbled. And every time life found a way, a root pushed through the soil, a shiver of feathers shook off the dust. A tiny mammal blinked in the darkness and kept going. That's your legacy. Not perfection, not power, not prestige, but persistence. You're not broken. You're becoming. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be here, breathing, blinking, taking one more ridiculous step on this weird, wobbling planet. So take that nap, drink that tea, call that friend, say no when you mean it, cry if you need to, laugh if you can, and remember, if your ancestors survived a literal firestorm from space, you, my resilient, caffeinated little miracle, you can survive this Tuesday. Next time on Earth's most dramatic reality show, the rise of mammals, the awkward teen phase of continents, and the revenge of the rodents. Because extinction isn't the end, it's just the start of your era. See you in the Paleogene. Bring snacks. Good night from the survivors. A sleepy farewell. As the moon rises over the smoldering remains of the Cretaceous world, the unlikely heroes, mammals, birds, and flowers, settle in for a well-earned nap. The age of dinosaurs may have ended with a bang, but the survivors, they kept going with yawns, snacks, and the evolutionary equivalent of sweatpants. Somewhere underground, a jittery mammal curls up in a warm burrow, twitching slightly like it's dreaming of beetles. Up above, a bird fluffs its feathers and perches on a scorched branch, singing a lullaby to the stars. And the flowers? Oh, they're still blooming, of course. Even in ash-covered soil, they stretch toward moonlight like the drama queens they are. So now, dear traveler of time and trivia, it's time for us to rest. Close your eyes, breathe in again. Let the noise of the asteroids fade. Let the roars of ancient beasts become soft echoes in the background. Imagine the earth cooled and quiet, blanketed not just in dust, but in dreams. Dreams of survival, of strange little creatures twitching into tomorrow, of birds taking flight toward unfamiliar skies, of petals reopening after disaster. This isn't just a bedtime story. This is the origin of your story. Because you, magnificent mammal, are here because one twitchy little furball said, "Nah, I'm not dying today." You're here because a bird chose flight over fight. You're here because flowers refused to wilt. You come from a long line of survivors who didn't need to roar to be remembered. They whispered, they ducked, they waited, and when the time was right, they bloomed, chirped, and squeaked their way into legend. So tonight, as your blanket wraps around you like the world's softest burrow, know this: you're part of something ancient, something ridiculous, something beautiful. The earth spins quietly now. No more fireballs, no more mass extinctions, fingers crossed. Just the hum of night, just the breath of life. And somewhere, out there, a flower is still flirting with the moon. So rest easy, little survivor. Let the strange lullaby of evolution sing you to sleep. Once upon a time, the world ended, but you didn't. And just before your brain switches to dream mode, let's whisper a few more truths. That burnout you're feeling is not failure. It's just your inner mammal begging for a nap. That existential crisis? Totally normal. Your ancestors lived through multiple ones. Geological ones. That inbox with 274 unread emails? Yeah. Not as scary as an asteroid the size of Mount Everest. Maybe your to-do list is monstrous. Maybe your heart feels tired. But evolution didn't get you this far just so you could be undone by a late-night Slack notification. So breathe again. Shake off the digital dust. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are just evolving. Tomorrow is another chance to thrive. Or nap. or eat cereal straight from the box. All are valid. And if tonight your brain decides to replay every awkward thing you've ever said since 2008, just remind it, hey, we survived the Cretaceous. We'll survive this cringe. If you enjoyed this journey through time, if our sleepy tales have wrapped around your imagination like a warm blanket, consider supporting the Sleepy History channel. Like, subscribe, share with fellow insomniacs and trivia goblins. Help us keep the fossil dreams alive, one ridiculous bedtime story at a time. Until next time, snore like a saber-tooth, dream like a dodo, survive like a mole rat, and remember, in a world that's always rushing, you're allowed to rest. You're allowed to be soft. You're allowed to say, not today, apocalypse. So close your eyes. Let the Cretaceous tuck you in. Let the flowers bloom behind your eyelids. Let the twitchy mammals in your dreams remind you, you got this. And if sleep feels far away, here's a trick from the Paleogene era. Count tiny marsupials jumping over smoldering logs. 1, 2, 3, and maybe by the 10th your eyes get heavier. Think of a sleepy world. Mossy, quiet, weird. A place where your biggest concern might be whether the beetle you stored for later is still crunchy. Simpler times. Imagine the slow rise of moonlight over ferns, the distant chirp of a bird who just discovered melody, and the warm smell of damp soil and old sunlight. The universe is old and strange, and somehow you're part of it. You're not alone. The ghosts of saber-tooths purr gently beside your pillow. A chorus of prehistoric frogs sings a harmony older than anxiety. Even the asteroids are quiet tonight. So sleep, not as an escape, but as a reunion, with everything soft and absurd and ancient inside you. Let go. You don't need to solve anything right now. You don't need to become anything more tonight. Just be. Breathe again. Let your pulse sink with the rhythm of ancient tides. Let your muscles melt like the last ice age. Your story isn't written in productivity apps or deadlines. It's written in survival, in dreams, in the gentle rebellion of resting. The mammals made it through. You will too. Maybe you've had a rough day. Maybe your heart feels like it's been chewed up by a velociraptor. But even that heart, fragile and fluttering, still beats like the drum of every ancestor that dared to nap through disaster. Rest is sacred. Rest is defiant. Rest is revolutionary. So if the world outside is too loud, make your own little burrow. Dim the lights. Turn off the noise. Wrap yourself in the quiet bravery of those who survived not with strength, but with softness. And as your mind floats further, imagine what comes next. Not just survival, but flourishing. Not just existing, but evolving in weird, wonderful directions. Tomorrow you might write a poem, or make someone laugh, or discover a new favorite snack. Your Paleogene ancestors would be proud. You don't owe the world productivity tonight. You owe yourself peace. The fossils aren't going anywhere. The trivia can wait. But your rest, that matters right now. So snuggle into your time machine of blankets. Float backward or maybe forward into the deepest sleep. Let go of guilt, of schedules, of proving anything. You're enough. You made it. You're here. Good night, little miracle. Good night, stardust and chaos. Good night from Sleepy History. The Last Gift, a Cretaceous side story. I have always been here. For over 4 billion years, I have turned slowly, carrying life on my back like precious whispers. Through fire, ice, silence, and song, I've cradled each creature born of me, but none quite like them. The dinosaurs, They thundered across my skin with joy and fury, proud and untamed. Some were gentle as falling leaves, others roared like storms. They danced under my sun, hunted in my forests, nested in the warmth of my breath. I loved them all, even the sharpest teeth, even the clumsiest claws. They were my children, and oh, how they thrived. For millions of years, they ruled without question. They adapted, evolved, shaped entire ecosystems around themselves. I watched them build empires of instinct, of scale and survival, never knowing how fragile it all was. But I could feel it, the tension, the ticking clock. I don't always choose when to change. Sometimes the universe makes that call. The rock came from the sky, fast, uninvited, final. I remember the heat first, then the silence. Fire bloomed where forests once stood. Oceans screamed. Skies turned black. I felt their panic, their confusion. Some tried to flee. Some stayed with their eggs. But none truly understood what was happening. How could they? I tried to hold them, to shield them, but I couldn't stop what was written in the stars. And when it was over, I was quiet for a long time. No footsteps, no thunder, just the slow wind and the ache of absence. I grieved, but in the quiet that followed, something strange happened. Tiny mammals emerged from the shadows, soft, shivering things that once scurried beneath giant feet. Flowers bloomed again, uncertain but bold. Birds, the children of dinosaurs, took to the skies, carrying echoes of a past that refused to fully die. It hurt to lose the giants, but life is stubborn, keeps trying. So I gave it one more chance. And now, millions of years later, I watch a species rise that looks up at the stars, wondering where it all began. They find fossils, name them with awe, draw pictures of creatures they never met. They mourn things they never saw. Maybe they know, maybe they feel it too, that this world was once ruled by thunder, and that even extinction can carry a kind of love.